The Pleasant Valley Bridge transformed into a death trap that stormy night. Thunder crashed as rain slashed horizontally through the darkness. Michael Walsh gripped his steering wheel tighter, his calloused hands steady despite the treacherous conditions. The windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the downpour, creating brief moments of clarity before the view blurred again. At 38, Michael's face carried the weathered lines of someone who had shouldered more than his share of life's burdens. 16 years at Carlton Manufacturing had hardened his hands and strengthened his resolve, but the weight of sole responsibility for his two daughters had left its mark in the creases around his eyes. The grocery bags on the passenger seat contained the week's careful bargains: discount pasta, day-old bread, and small chocolate bars hidden as Friday treats for his daughters. His mind drifted momentarily to another life, years earlier, when his hands had drafted precision engineering designs instead of operating factory machinery. For Westlake Industries' restructuring had eliminated his position, along with hundreds of others, before necessity had forced him to take any job available to support his family. The headlights of his second-hand pickup truck cut a feeble path through the storm. Michael squinted, focusing on the road ahead. That's when he saw it. A black Mercedes ahead, swerving violently as its tires hydroplaned across the flooded pavement. The luxury vehicle fishtailed, then spun, its driver clearly fighting for control. Time slowed as Michael watched the Mercedes smash through the guardrail like matchsticks. The sickening crunch of metal, followed by a splash, echoed even through the storm's fury. Without hesitation, Michael's truck was already pulling to the shoulder, hazard lights blinking weakly. The rain hit him like tiny bullets as he ran to the bridge's edge. 30 feet below, the river churned angry and black. The Mercedes was already half submerged, its headlights creating an eerie glow beneath the turbulent surface. For the briefest moment, Michael thought of Lucy and Emma waiting at home with the babysitter, of his promise to return safely. Then he dove. The cold stole his breath as the current immediately clawed at him, trying to drag him downstream. His muscles, hardened from years on the factory floor, strained against the water's pull. Through the driver's window, illuminated by the car's interior lights, he saw her. A woman in an elegant suit, her eyes wide with terror as water filled the cabin around her, her hands pressed frantically against the door that refused to budge. Their eyes met through the glass, his determined, hers desperate. In that single moment of connection, neither could possibly know that this chance encounter would unlock a story that would reshape both their destinies forever. Michael slammed his elbow against the window once, twice, until it finally cracked. Water rushed in faster as he broke through the glass. The woman was going into shock, her movements becoming sluggish. Michael reached in, unbuckled her seatbelt, and pulled her through the window as the vehicle continued its descent to the riverbed. Breaking the surface, Michael gasped for air, one arm locked firmly around the woman's waist as he fought the current toward shore. By the time he dragged them both onto the muddy bank, sirens wailed in the distance. The woman coughed, expelling water from her lungs, her eyes fluttering open. "You're safe," Michael assured her, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "Help is coming." She grasped his hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Thank you," she whispered, before emergency responders swarmed around them, separating rescuer from rescued. In the chaos that followed, the woman was whisked away in an ambulance. Michael, after insisting he needed no medical attention, gave a brief statement to police and headed home, soaked and exhausted but somehow feeling more alive than he had in years. Dawn crept through the worn curtains of the Walsh home as Michael stood at the stove, his shoulders aching from the previous night's rescue, but his hands steady as he cracked eggs into a skillet. The events at the bridge replayed in his mind: the woman's panicked eyes, the bone-chilling water, the struggle to break the car window, and finally dragging her limp form to the shore as sirens wailed in the distance. He counted the eggs carefully. Only 4 left now. The grocery run had been cut short by the accident, and this month's budget was already stretched thin. The small frame photo on the kitchen windowsill caught the morning light. His late wife, Elizabeth's smile frozen in time, her eyes bright despite the illness that would claim her just weeks after the picture was taken. 4 years had passed, but some mornings the loss felt as fresh as yesterday. "Dad, is that bacon I smell?" 13-year-old Lucy appeared in the doorway, her school backpack already slung over one shoulder. She had her mother's eyes, observant, kind, missing nothing. Michael saw how she noticed the pile of bills he'd hastily tucked under yesterday's newspaper. "Just the regular breakfast for my regular superheroes," Michael answered, forcing lightness into his voice. "Superheroes get more than 2 pieces of bacon," announced 9-year-old Emma, padding into the kitchen in mismatched socks. She wrapped her arms around her father's waist, and Michael felt the familiar ache in his chest. Emma had been only 5 when Elizabeth passed, too young to fully understand but old enough to remember. Michael flipped the last piece of bacon onto a paper towel. "All right, troops, breakfast assembly line. Lucy, you're on toast duty. Emma, grab the juice." The girls moved with practiced efficiency, a routine born of necessity and teamwork. These quiet morning moments were precious, a reminder of why he pushed through every long shift at the factory, why he'd taken on extra weekend work, why he kept going. "Dad, you look tired," Lucy observed, buttering toast with careful precision. "Late night at work again?" Michael hesitated, the memory of cold river water and desperate eyes flashing through his mind. "Had a bit of an adventure on the way home," he said carefully, not wanting to worry them. "Someone needed help, that's all." "Was it about the accident by Pleasant Valley Bridge?" Emma asked, smartphone already in hand. "It's all over next door. Someone said a car went into the river." Lucy's eyes widened. "Dad, you didn't—" "Both of you eat your breakfast," Michael deflected, though pride warmed his chest. "The bus won't wait, and Mrs. Henderson already gave me the evil eye last week when you were running late." 3 sharp knocks interrupted his mental calculations. Oddly formal rapping for their neighborhood. "I'll get it!" Emma bounded up, but Michael caught her shoulder gently. "Hold on there, speed racer. Let me handle this." Through the front window, he caught a glimpse of black SUVs lining their modest street. His heart skipped a beat as he remembered the woman from last night, her elegant suit soaked through, hands trembling as she thanked him before disappearing into an ambulance. "Dad?" Lucy's voice carried a note of concern. "Everything okay?" Michael straightened his worn t-shirt, suddenly aware of how out of place those vehicles looked in front of their small home. "Yeah, honey, everything's fine. Just finish your breakfast. Both of you." He opened the door and the morning sun caught a flash of silver, a delicate pendant hanging at the throat of a woman whose composed appearance gave no hint that she'd been fighting for her life just hours before. The woman on his doorstep was a study in contrast from the one he'd pulled from the river. Her charcoal suit was crisp and immaculate, her dark hair swept into an elegant chignon. Only her eyes remained the same, deep, searching, and somehow both vulnerable and commanding at once. "Mr. Walsh," she said, her voice carrying the same cultured tone he remembered from their brief exchange in the storm. "I hope I'm not interrupting your morning." Behind him, he could hear his daughters whispering, their breakfast forgotten. The SUVs had drawn curious faces to neighboring windows. Their street hadn't seen vehicles this expensive since old Mr. Peterson's funeral procession. "Not interrupting," Michael managed, acutely aware of his faded t-shirt and the morning stubble he hadn't had time to shave. "Sophia Reynolds," she said, extending a hand with perfectly manicured nails. A simple business card appeared in her other hand, the cream-colored stock so thick it looked more like art than stationery. "And I believe I owe you my life." The card's minimal design carried only her name and title. Sophia Reynolds, CEO, Horizon Technologies. Michael's thumb brushed over the embossed letters as reality shifted beneath his feet. He'd seen Horizon's sleek campus on the outskirts of town, had driven past its gleaming towers while delivering parts to smaller factories. The company was a tech giant, its reach extending far beyond their modest industrial town. "Dad?" Lucy's voice broke through his daze. "Everything okay?" Sophia's gaze shifted past him, softening as she took in the girls. "Your daughters. They must be proud to have such a brave father." "They don't know yet," Michael admitted quietly, "about last night." "Then perhaps we should remedy that." Sophia's smile held warmth that hadn't been there in her initial business-like greeting. "May I come in? I believe we have quite a story to share." The next few minutes were surreal. Sophia Reynolds, whose net worth probably exceeded their entire neighborhood's combined value, sat at their scratched kitchen table, declining coffee with gracious politeness, while Michael's daughters stared in undisguised fascination. "Your father," Sophia began, her composure perfect, but her voice carrying an undercurrent of emotion. Drove past Pleasant Valley Bridge at exactly the right moment last night when my car went through the guardrail. I was certain. She paused, fingers touching the silver pendant at her throat. Well, let's just say I've never been so grateful for divine timing. Emma's eyes were saucer-wide. Dad, you saved her? Like for real? It wasn't. Michael started to demur, but Sophia cut him off gently. It was extraordinary, she said firmly. He didn't hesitate, didn't wait for help or consider the danger. He simply acted. She reached into her briefcase, withdrawing a folder. Which is why I'm here, Mr. Walsh. Michael stiffened imperceptibly. He recognized charity when he saw it coming. Ma'am, I don't need? Perhaps not. But deserve? Absolutely. Sophia's tone was kind, but brooked no argument. I've spent the morning learning about you, Michael Walsh. 16 years at Carlton Manufacturing. Single father, active in community outreach despite working overtime most weeks. She smiled at his surprise. I believe in knowing who I'm dealing with. Lucy, ever protective, straightened in her chair. Our dad's the best, she said, chin lifting slightly. He doesn't need a chance to do more, Sophia finished smoothly. To perhaps make a broader difference in the world, to secure a future for his family while helping others. She opened the folder, revealing documents that made Michael's breath catch. I'm not offering charity, Mr. Walsh. I'm offering opportunity. The school bus honked outside, making them all jump. Michael looked at his daughters, then at his watch. Girls, you need to go. Sophia nodded, standing. We have time to discuss this properly, perhaps over dinner. She produced another business card, this one with a phone number handwritten on the back. My private line. When you are ready to talk about your future, call me. As his daughters rushed to gather their things, Sophia paused at the door. Oh, and Michael, thank you. Not just for last night, but for reminding me that there are still people in this world who act purely out of goodness. The business card felt heavy in Michael's pocket as he watched the black SUVs pull away, their tinted windows reflecting the morning sun. His daughters peppered him with questions as they hurried to the bus, but his mind was stuck on Sophia's words about the future and the way her eyes had held his when she'd said them. That evening, after the girls had finished their homework, Michael found them huddled over Lucy's laptop in the living room. Emma's excited whisper carried across the room. Look how many projects her company has. Dad saved like the most important person ever. Michael paused in the doorway, dish towel still in hand. On the screen, a newspaper article showed Sophia Reynolds standing before a crowd, cutting a ribbon at what appeared to be a new medical facility. The headline read, Horizon Technologies launches revolutionary healthcare initiative in developing nations. Did you know she built hospitals in 12 countries? Lucy scrolled through the article. And look at this, their clean water program reached over 1 million people last year. She glanced up at her father. Dad, why didn't you tell us about the rescue right away? Michael settled into his worn armchair, the springs creaking familiarly. Honestly, it didn't seem real. Still doesn't. He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Sometimes life throws you curves you can't quite believe. Like saving a billionaire tech pioneer, Emma grinned. Tech philanthropist, Lucy corrected, still reading. It says here, she built Horizon from nothing. After immigrating at 18, started coding in her garage, got a scholarship to MIT. She paused, expression softening. Dad, listen to this part. Reynolds credits her late father's influence for her success, establishing the Reynolds Foundation to honor his memory through humanitarian work. Michael felt something shift in his chest. He remembered the way Sophia had touched that silver pendant when speaking of the accident, the brief flash of vulnerability beneath her composed exterior. Perhaps they had more in common than their different worlds suggested. There's more, Emma chimed in, pointing at the screen. The foundation just announced this huge project to help single-parent families with education. She trailed off, looking at her father with dawning realization. Dad, is that why she came here? To offer you a job? Before Michael could answer, Lucy pulled up another article, this one more recent. Look at these pictures from their Cash Charity Gala. She's always alone in them, even at her own events. She scrolled through photos of Sophia in elegant evening wear, maintaining a professional smile while surrounded by celebrities and business leaders. Must be lonely at the top. Girls, Michael cautioned, but his mind wandered to the handwritten number on the business card, still untouched in his pocket. He'd felt the weight of it all day at the factory, through every repetitive motion on the assembly line. You should call her, Lucy said suddenly, closing the laptop. Not because she's rich or important, but did you see how many people her foundation has helped? Maybe you could be part of that. Mom nodded enthusiastically. Plus, she's pretty, like really pretty. Emma, Michael felt his ears grow warm. That's not, it's not about that, Dad. Lucy's tone was gentle, so much like her mother's that it made his heart ache. Mom would want you to take chances again, to do more than just survive. The room fell quiet, save for the distant hum of traffic and the ticking of Elizabeth's old wall clock. Michael looked at the family photo above the fireplace, at his late wife's smile. Lucy was right. Elizabeth had always pushed him to dream bigger, to reach beyond the comfortable and familiar. He pulled out the business card, its elegant simplicity somehow both intimidating and inviting. The handwritten numbers seemed to carry an echo of Sophia's voice. When you're ready to talk about your future. You know what? Emma broke the silence. I bet she was scared this morning. Michael looked up, surprised. What do you mean? Coming here to our house? She probably worried we'd just want her money or that you'd be different from the person who jumped in to save her. Emma shrugged. Must be hard never knowing if people like you, for you. Out of the mouths of babes, Michael thought, studying his younger daughter with amazement. Here they'd been focused on the gulf between their worlds, while Emma saw straight to the human heart of the matter. The business card seemed lighter now, less daunting. Perhaps Sophia's carefully maintained composure, her precise words and power suits, were armor of a different kind than his casual clothes and careful budgeting, but armor nonetheless. Michael reached for his phone, aware of his daughters holding their breath. The numbers gleamed in the evening light, a bridge between two worlds that had crashed together in one stormy moment. Sometimes, he realized, courage wasn't just about diving into rivers. Sometimes it was about taking a chance on what waited on the other side. The restaurant Sophia had chosen was understated but elegant, tucked away in a renovated Victorian mansion on the edge of town. Michael adjusted his tie, borrowed from his neighbor, Mr. Rodriguez, and tried not to feel like an imposter as the maitre d' led him to a secluded table in the garden terrace. Sophia was already there, but not as he expected. Gone was the power suit, replaced by a simple blue dress that softened her usual corporate armor. She stood as he approached, and for a moment neither spoke, both seemingly aware of how different this felt from their previous encounters. You look nice, she said, finally breaking the silence. Though you didn't need to dress up, I probably should have suggested somewhere more casual. And miss seeing this place? Michael smiled, relaxing slightly. The girls looked it up online. Emma's convinced it's magical, especially the garden lights. Your daughters are delightful. Sophia's expression warmed. Lucy reminds me of myself at that age, so protective of her family. And Emma, she sees right through people, doesn't she? Michael thought of Emma's insight about Sophia being scared to visit them. She gets that from her mother. A waiter appeared with a leather folder, which Sophia accepted with a quiet thank you. But instead of a menu, it contained a single document, letterhead bearing the Reynolds Foundation logo. Before we order, she said, her tone shifting slightly to something more vulnerable, I want to be clear about why I asked you here. She slid the folder across the table. This isn't about repaying a debt, Michael. What you did that night, jumping into danger without hesitation, it showed me something I've been looking for. Michael opened the folder, his eyes widening at the title. Director of Engineering, Reynolds Foundation, Medical Technologies Initiative. Our foundation has grown faster than we anticipated, Sophia continued, her fingers absently touching the silver pendant at her neck, a gesture he was beginning to recognize as a sign of emotional significance. We need someone who understands real-world applications, who acts from genuine problem-solving instinct rather than corporate strategy. Someone who sees a problem and jumps in to solve it, quite literally in your case. The salary figure made Michael's breath catch, but it was the job description that held his attention. Overseeing the development of medical technologies for underserved communities, creating affordable solutions for real-world problems. implementing innovations in places that needed them most. I don't understand, he said, looking up from the papers. There must be hundreds of engineers more qualified. Perhaps in theory, Sophia acknowledged, but that's exactly the point. I've sat through hundreds of interviews with highly qualified engineers who talk about theoretical applications and optimization algorithms. What I need is someone who understands, bone deep, what happens when theory meets reality. Michael hesitated, a memory surfacing. I worked in engineering once before the factory. Sophia nodded, watching him carefully. I know. Mechanical engineering degree from State University, 5 years at Westlake Industries. The name hung in the air between them. Westlake Industries, the company Sophia's father had owned before founding Horizon, the company that had laid off half its workforce, including Michael, during a restructuring 12 years ago. You knew, Michael said quietly, pieces falling into place. You knew who I was before last night. No, Sophia answered, her expression sincere. I only discovered the connection this morning when my team researched you. It was unexpected. Oh, Michael sat back, feeling suddenly cold despite the warm evening. So, is this guilt? Making amends for what your father's company did? My father sold Westlake before those layoffs, Sophia said, her voice tight. He had no control over what the new owners did. He would have handled things differently. Easy to say in retrospect. Sophia's fingers tightened around her water glass. You're right, it is. She met his gaze directly. My father taught me that business without humanity is just numbers on a page. That's why when I started the foundation. That's why when I found out about your background this morning, I was even more certain you were the right person for this position. A warm breeze stirred the garden lights, casting gentle shadows across their table. In that soft illumination, Michael saw past Sophia's CEO persona to something more. A woman who carried her own burdens, her own missions. The position includes full relocation assistance, she continued, then hesitated. Though you wouldn't have to move far, there's a lovely house near the foundation headquarters, just 10 minutes from the girls' school. I took the liberty of having it prepared, just in case. Sophia, Michael interrupted gently. Why me, really? She met his gaze, and for a moment her carefully maintained composure slipped. Because when my car was sinking, you didn't see Sophia Reynolds, CEO. You saw someone who needed help. Do you know how rare that is in my world? She smiled softly. And maybe, just maybe, I believe some things happen for a reason. The job offer sat between them more than just paper and ink. It was a bridge between their worlds, an invitation to something neither of them had quite named yet. I'll need time, Michael said, to think about it, to talk with the girls. Of course, Sophia signaled the waiter. Now shall we order? I hear the chef's special is exceptional tonight. As they turned to their menus, Michael caught Sophia stealing glances at him, her professional demeanor softening each time their eyes met. Perhaps Emma was right about the garden being magical. Something was certainly shifting in the space between CEO and factory worker, rescuer and rescued, two single parents who'd found each other in the most unlikely of circumstances. What Michael couldn't know as the waiter poured their wine was that Sophia's pendant concealed a small tracking device, a security measure her head of security had insisted upon after recent threats, or that the elegant restaurant, while certainly beautiful, had been chosen partly for its discreet security and multiple exit routes. Sophia smiled across the table, guilt tightening her chest. She should tell him about the real reason for her car accident, about the shadowy conglomerate trying to steal her company's breakthrough medical technology, about the threatening notes, about how her car's brake lines had most likely been cut. But as Michael relaxed into the evening, his genuine smile warming something long cold inside her, Sophia made a decision. She would protect him and his daughters from the dangerous reality closing in around her. At least for tonight, they could simply be two people enjoying dinner, pretending that the bridge between their worlds wasn't also a target for those who wanted her innovations buried forever. The factory's time clock echoed through the empty locker room as Michael pulled his weathered work badge from his coveralls one last time. 16 years of routine condensed into a small plastic rectangle with a faded photo. He ran his thumb over the worn edges, remembering his first day here, young, newly married, full of dreams about returning to engineering someday. Then came the layoffs at Westlake, the baby on the way, the need for steady work, any work. What was supposed to be temporary had stretched into years, and somewhere along the way, he'd stopped seeing himself as an engineer at all. So it's true then. Tony, his line supervisor, appeared in the doorway. You're really leaving us for the fancy corporate world. Michael tucked the badge into his pocket, a strange mix of emotions tightening his chest. Got an opportunity I can't pass up, Tony. For the girls. Yeah, word's gotten around. Tony crossed his arms, but his expression was kind. Some folks are saying you hit the lottery saving that CEO lady. Others are calling it a modern-day fairy tale. It's just a job, Michael said, though they both knew it was more than that. A chance to use my engineering background again. Engineering? Tony's eyebrows rose. Wait, you've got an engineering degree? Mechanical from state. Tony stared at him. 16 years you've been fixing machines on this floor, better than our actual maintenance team, and you never mentioned you were a full-on engineer. Michael shrugged. Wasn't relevant. I needed the work. You had a position. Simple as that. Well, the guys wanted to send you off proper. Tony gestured toward the break room, where voices and laughter spilled into the hallway. Can't leave without saying goodbye to your second family, right? The break room was packed with familiar faces, people he'd worked alongside for years, shared lunches with, celebrated birthdays and grieved losses with. Someone had brought in a cake, its frosting slightly melted in the factory's perpetual warmth. A banner hung crookedly, "Congratulations on your promotion to hero." "Speech," called out Betty from quality control, her eyes suspiciously moist. "Tell us about your fancy new job." Michael felt his ears redden. It's not, I mean, he cleared his throat, looking at these people who'd supported him through Elizabeth's illness, who'd covered his shifts when the girls were sick, who'd become more than just co-workers. This place, all of you, you've been here for me through everything. When Elizabeth, his voice caught slightly, when things were hardest, you carried me through. And now you're carrying others, Tony added quietly. That's what Pedro from Third Shift said when he heard about the foundation work you'll be doing. Someone pressed a small package into Michael's hands. Inside was a group photo from last year's company picnic, framed with signatures and well wishes around the border. In the picture, he was laughing at something, surrounded by these people who'd become family. Keep it on your fancy new desk, Betty sniffed. Remember where you came from? Speaking of fancy, Tony grinned, nodding toward the window. Your ride's here. A sleek black car had pulled up outside, its windows tinted against the afternoon sun. Michael recognized Sophia's driver, Thomas, standing professionally by the door. The contrast between the luxury vehicle and the factory's weathered exterior wasn't lost on anyone. Look at you, Betty dabbed at her eyes. Our Michael, off to change the world. I'm still me, Michael assured them, but even he could feel the shift happening. Yesterday, he'd toured the foundation's headquarters with Sophia, seen the scale of what they did, what he'd be part of. The way she'd looked at him as she showed him his future office. Pride and something softer in her eyes. Of course you are, Tony clapped his shoulder, just with better suits. Laughter rippled through the room, breaking the emotional tension. Michael hugged his way through the crowd, accepting good wishes and gentle teasing about his fairy tale princess CEO. By the time he reached the car, his old badge was heavy with meaning in his pocket, a reminder of where he'd been, what had shaped him. Thomas opened the car door with a slight bow that made Michael want to laugh and cringe simultaneously. Mr. Walsh, Miss Reynolds is waiting at the foundation to begin your orientation. Michael turned for one last look at the factory, at the faces pressed against the break room window. 16 years of his life ending not with regret, but with possibility. His phone buzzed. A text from Lucy. Proud of you, Dad. Mom would be too. As the car pulled away, Michael touched the badge in his pocket one last time. Some endings were really beginnings in disguise. And sometimes the biggest act of courage wasn't jumping into a river. It was letting go of the familiar shore to see what waited downstream. What he couldn't see was the dark sedan that pulled out 3 cars behind them, or the man inside photographing the factory workers watching Michael's departure. The man sent the photos with a brief message. Walsh has integrated, proceeding to phase 2. The Horizon Technologies campus gleamed in the afternoon sun, its curved glass buildings reflecting clouds and sky like massive mirrors. As Thomas escorted him through security, Michael noticed the subtle but omnipresent measures: biometric scanners, guards dressed as receptionists, cameras disguised as light fixtures. Sophia met him in the atrium, professional once more in a tailored pantsuit, but her smile when she saw him was genuine. "Welcome to Horizon, Michael. Ready to see what you'll be working with?" She led him through a maze of departments, introducing him to team members who greeted him with varying degrees of warmth and curiosity. Michael couldn't help noticing the sidelong glances, the whispered comments that stopped when he approached. "Don't mind them," Sophia said quietly as they entered an elevator that required her fingerprint. "They're not used to new additions at this level." "At this level," Michael repeated. "About that, are you sure I'm qualified for—" "I wouldn't have offered you the position if I wasn't certain," she interrupted, the elevator descending deeper than Michael had expected. "Besides, this project needs exactly your kind of experience." The doors opened to reveal a research floor unlike anything Michael had imagined. Unlike the sleek corporate spaces above, this level hummed with practical energy, 3D printers whirring, prototypes in various stages of development, engineers in casual clothes clustering around workstations. "This is our medical technologies initiative," Sophia explained, leading him through the space. "We're developing affordable, durable medical equipment for regions with limited resources, places where power is inconsistent, temperatures extreme, and trained technicians scarce." Michael's engineering mind clicked into gear as he scanned the projects. Water purification systems, portable diagnostic tools, solar-powered refrigeration units for vaccines. This was practical engineering, the kind he'd dreamed of doing when he'd first earned his degree. "And this," Sophia said, stopping before a sealed glass lab, "is our flagship project." Inside, a team worked on what appeared to be a compact dialysis machine, far smaller than any Michael had seen before. "The Life Ream," Sophia explained, pride evident in her voice. "Portable, affordable dialysis that can run on minimal power and use far less water than conventional machines. It could revolutionize treatment in developing regions." Michael studied the design, questions already forming. "The filtration system is where we're stuck," came a voice behind them. A tall man with silver-streaked hair approached, his expression carefully neutral. "Victor Harrington, Chief of Research." "Michael Walsh." Michael extended his hand, noting the weak handshake in return. "Yes, I know." Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Our river hero, I understand you have some factory experience." The condescension was subtle but unmistakable. Before Michael could respond, Sophia interjected smoothly. "Michael has a mechanical engineering degree from State University and 16 years of practical experience solving complex mechanical problems in challenging environments. Exactly what the Life Ream project needs." Her tone was pleasant, but left no room for argument. "Victor, would you walk us through the current challenges?" Reluctantly, Victor led them into the lab, explaining the filtration issues that were preventing the Life Ream from being field-ready. As he talked, Michael examined the prototype, his hands itching to explore the components. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the machine. Victor hesitated, but Sophia nodded. "Of course." Michael knelt beside the device, carefully examining the filtration assembly. The design was elegant but complex, perhaps too complex for the intended environments. "Have you considered a dual-stage approach?" he asked, looking up at Victor. "Simpler components, redundant systems. In the field, complexity equals failure points." Victor stiffened. "We've explored numerous approaches, Mr. Walsh. Our team has been working on this for 3 years." "Then you won't mind a fresh perspective," Sophia said smoothly. "Michael, I'd like your initial assessment by tomorrow. Victor will ensure you have access to all the data." The tension in the room was palpable as Victor nodded curtly and excused himself. Once he was gone, Michael stood, wiping his hands on a nearby cloth. "I'm not making friends fast, am I?" Sophia's laugh was soft but genuine. "Victor's brilliant but territorial. He'll come around when he sees your value." She checked her watch. "I have a board meeting, but I've set up your office. Take the rest of today to get oriented, review the project files. Tomorrow, we'll dive in properly." As she turned to leave, Michael called after her. Sophia, thank you for this chance. I won't let you down. Something flickered in her eyes, warmth certainly, but also something that looked almost like guilt. I know you won't, Michael. That's precisely why you're here. After she left, a young engineer named Priya showed Michael to his office, a corner space with windows overlooking the campus grounds. It was easily 4 times the size of his supervisor's office at the factory. Ms. Reynolds had this prepared specially, Priya explained, showing him the custom workstation and engineering software. We don't usually set up offices like this for new team members. What do you mean? Priya hesitated. It's just, this was previously reserved for department heads, and the Life Ream project is, well, it's important. High profile. There are significant investments riding on it. No pressure then, Michael joked, but Priya's expression remained serious. Just be careful, Mr. Walsh. Success here makes friends, but it also makes enemies. After she left, Michael sat at his new desk, running his hands over the smooth surface. His gaze fell on the factory photo he'd already placed in the corner. From hero to suspect in under 8 hours. Not bad. He turned to the computer and began reviewing the Life Ream files, losing himself in the engineering challenges. Hours passed unnoticed as he analyzed the design, making notes and sketching alternatives. This was the work he'd been trained for, the kind of problem-solving that lit up his mind in a way assembly line work never had. So absorbed was he that the ringing phone startled him. It was the front desk. His daughters had arrived. In the lobby, Lucy and Emma waited with Thomas, who'd picked them up from school. Emma raced across the polished floor to hug him. Dad, this place is amazing. They have robots in the hallways. Lucy was more reserved, taking in the sleek surroundings with watchful eyes. Nice office? Nicer than I deserve, Michael admitted. Want to see it? As they toured the facility, Michael noticed how differently staff reacted to him with his daughters present. Smiles were warmer, nods more genuine. Human again, not just an interloper. So, this is what you used to do? Before the factory? Lucy asked as they examined the Life Ream prototype. Build stuff like this? Not exactly like this, Michael said. But yes, engineering, problem solving. Why'd you stop? Emma asked, tracing a finger along the sleek edge of the machine. Michael hesitated. How to explain layoffs, economic necessity, the gradual erosion of dreams? Life happened, kiddo. Priorities changed because of us. Lucy's perceptiveness was sometimes unnerving. Because of choices I made, Michael corrected gently. Good choices that led me to where I needed to be. A throat cleared behind them. Sophia stood in the doorway, her board meeting apparently concluded. I see the full Walsh family is getting the tour. What do you think of your dad's new workplace? It's awesome, Emma enthused. Dad was just telling us he used to be an engineer before we were born. And now he is again, Sophia said, something soft in her expression as she looked at Michael. Sometimes life comes full circle in the most unexpected ways. That evening, Michael took the girls to dinner at a casual restaurant near campus. As they waited for their food, Lucy fixed him with her most serious expression. Dad, is Ms. Reynolds the reason Mom's car crashed that night? Michael nearly choked on his water. What? No, why would you think that? Lucy shrugged, too casual. I was reading about her company. They were working on some breakthrough medical technology. There was an article about corporate espionage and how valuable their research is. Lucy Walsh, have you been watching those conspiracy theory videos again? It's not conspiracy if it's true, Lucy muttered, and you have to admit it's weird. You save her from a car crash, and suddenly she gives you a dream job. People don't just do that. Emma interrupted, mouthful of bread. Maybe she's a secret princess, and Dad's her knight in shining armor. Despite himself, Michael laughed. Life isn't a fairy tale or a spy movie, girls. Sometimes coincidences happen, and sometimes people are just grateful. But as they ate, Lucy's words nagged at him. Sophia's car accident, the heightened security at Horizon, Victor's territorial behavior over the Life Ream project. Was he missing something obvious? His phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Hope the first day went well. Security tells me your daughters are getting the full tour. Smart girls. They ask good questions. Breakfast meeting tomorrow, 7 a.m. There's more to discuss about the project. Michael smiled at the screen, aware of Lucy watching him with narrowed eyes. Perhaps there was more to discuss about everything. What he didn't notice was the man at the bar pretending to watch the game while his phone quietly captured photos of the Walsh family. In his ear, a voice said softly, "Confirmed. The daughters are our leverage." Michael arrived early the next morning, eager to share his ideas for the life ream. The campus was quiet, only security and a few dedicated researchers present. He found Sophia in her office surrounded by holographic displays showing component schematics. "You've been working all night," he asked, noticing the subtle signs of fatigue she tried to conceal. "Just since 4, she admitted. "I reviewed your initial notes, your dual-stage filtration approach. It's brilliant in its simplicity." Michael set down his coffee. "It needs refinement, but I think it could solve the core issues." "Victor won't like it. Because it might work, or because it's not his idea?" Sophia's smile was tired but genuine. "Both. But the life ream is too important for egos." She waved her hand, collapsing the holographic displays. "Michael, there's something else we need to discuss." The seriousness in her tone made him sit straighter. "What's wrong?" "The life ream isn't just another medical device." She touched her pendant, that now familiar gesture of discomfort. "Its filtration technology has broader applications, military applications, water purification in contaminated zones, toxin removal systems. And that makes it valuable to more than just Horizon," Michael concluded, pieces clicking into place. "Is that why security here is tighter than the White House?" "There have been attempts to acquire the technology." Sophia's voice was carefully neutral. "Industrial espionage isn't uncommon in our field." "Was your car accident really an accident?" The question hung between them. Sophia's fingers tightened around her pendant. "The police found no evidence of tampering," she said finally. "But between us, my security team has doubts." Michael's mind raced back to Lucy's suspicions. "So when you offered me this job, it was because you're precisely the engineer we need," Sophia interrupted firmly. "Your background, your practical approach, that's why you're here." "But yes, I should have been more transparent about the sensitive nature of the project." Before Michael could respond, Victor entered without knocking, his expression thunderous. "We have a problem," he announced, ignoring Michael completely. "The latest filtration prototype failed during overnight testing. Catastrophically." Sophia was instantly alert. "Damage? The lab is intact, but 3 months of work is gone. We'll need to start from scratch." "Or," Michael said quietly, "we could try my approach." Victor turned as if noticing him for the first time. "Your approach lacks the necessary sophistication for—" "Victor," Sophia cut him off. "Michael's design has merit. Set up a test for this afternoon." Victor's jaw tightened. "As you wish." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Oh, and security flagged something unusual. Someone accessed the LifeReam files remotely last night. From your account, Sophia." After he left, Michael turned to Sophia. "Is that possible?" "No," she said, already typing rapidly on her computer. "My credentials have triple authentication." She paled visibly. "Unless the only other person with that level of access is your father?" "He's been dead for 5 years." Her voice was flat. "It's Marcus Whitfield, my CFO, and my father's oldest friend. He helped me build Horizon after my father died." The implications hung in the air between them. If someone was using Whitfield's credentials, either the CFO was involved or someone very close to him was compromised. "Michael," Sophia said slowly, "I think I've dragged you into something more complicated than I intended." "I jumped into a river for you," he reminded her, surprising himself with the steadiness in his voice. "I think I can handle complicated." Their eyes met across the desk, understanding passing between them. This was no longer just about a che or a life debt. It was about trust, about partnership in the face of unseen threats. What neither of them knew was that the real threat was already in motion, and that the flash drive Victor had slipped into his pocket contained not just the failed test data, but a complete copy of Michael's new filtration design, destined for buyers who would pay millions to ensure the life ream never reached those who needed it most. As Sophia and Michael bent over the computer tracing the security breach, the first piece of a long-hidden puzzle clicked into place. The path ahead would test not just Michael's engineering skills, but the very foundation of trust between two people from different worlds, united by a chance encounter on a bridge that was proving to be far less accidental than either had believed. The storm that had brought them together was nothing compared to what was coming, and this time the waters they would need to navigate ran far deeper than any river. That afternoon, Michael's daughters settled into their new home, a comfortable house in a quiet neighborhood near Horizon's campus. As Emma explored the backyard and Lucy examined her new bedroom, Michael received an unexpected visitor, Marcus Whitfield himself. The CFO was everything Michael wasn't. Polished, patrician, with the easy confidence of old money. His handshake was firm, his smile practiced. "Ms. Reynolds speaks highly of you, Mr. Walsh," Whitfield said, accepting the coffee Michael offered. The man who jumped into a river without thought for his own safety. Quite cinematic. "Just did what anyone would do," Michael demurred, studying the older man. Was this the security breach Sophia feared, or an innocent party? "Hardly anyone," Whitfield corrected. "Most people would have called 911 and hoped for the best. But then you're not most people, are you? Former engineer turned factory worker turned foundation director. Quite a career trajectory." The subtle emphasis on former wasn't lost on Michael. People contain multitudes. "Indeed they do." Whitfield's smile never reached his eyes. "Sophia has always had an intuitive approach to hiring. Her father was the same way. Samuel Reynolds could spot talent in the most unexpected places." "You knew him well?" "We were like brothers." A shadow crossed Whitfield's face. His death left a void that can never be filled. "I've done my best to guide Sophia, to protect Samuel's legacy. She seems quite capable of managing her own legacy." Whitfield chuckled, but there was no warmth in it. "Capability and wisdom are different qualities, Mr. Walsh. Sophia has brilliant ideas, but sometimes lacks strategic thinking. The Life Ream, for instance, a remarkable innovation that should be marketed to high-end medical facilities in developed nations. Instead, she insists on giving it away to countries that can barely maintain basic infrastructure. Saving lives isn't strategic enough." "Saving Horizon is my priority," Whitfield corrected smoothly. "One Samuel would share, but Sophia is determined to follow her heart rather than her head." The conversation was interrupted by Emma bounding into the room, excited about the treehouse she'd discovered in the backyard. Whitfield's demeanor changed instantly, his smile warming as he chatted with the young girl. After he left, Lucy emerged from her room where she'd been eavesdropping. "I don't trust him," she announced bluntly. Michael sighed. "Lucy, not everyone is part of a conspiracy." "He kept looking at your Life Ream notes on the counter," she insisted, "and he asked Emma questions about our new security system. Why would he care about that?" Before Michael could dismiss her concerns, his phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. "Test of your filtration system successful. Victor actually smiled. We need to celebrate. Dinner at your place tonight. I'll bring food." As Michael typed his reply, he couldn't shake the feeling that Lucy's suspicions and Whitfield's visit were connected, and that the successful test might have just accelerated whatever game was being played around them. Dinner that night was the most relaxed Michael had seen Sophia. She arrived bearing gourmet takeout and, to the girls' delight, cupcakes from a famous local bakery. In jeans and a casual sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders, she seemed younger, freer. "To successful filtration," she toasted, raising her water glass. "Michael, you may have just saved the Life Ream project months of development time." "It was a team effort," he demurred, though pride warmed his chest. "Even Victor contributed some key refinements." "Only after you forced his hand," Sophia laughed. "He's already talking about timeline acceleration. We could have a working prototype for field testing within weeks instead of months." As they ate, Michael observed the easy way Sophia interacted with his daughters, asking Lucy about her volleyball team, listening to Emma's detailed description of her science project. There was nothing patronizing in her interest, nothing performed for his benefit. She genuinely engaged with them, drawing out stories and laughter. Later, while the girls cleared the table, Michael found himself alone with Sophia in the living room, family photos from the old house already arranged on the mantel. "Your wife was beautiful," Sophia said softly, studying a picture of Elizabeth with the girls as toddlers. Lucy has her eyes. And her stubbornness, Michael added. Elizabeth never backed down when she believed in something. How did she? Sophia hesitated. I'm sorry, that's too personal. Cancer, Michael said simply, diagnosed after Emma was born. We had 18 months from diagnosis to after. He swallowed hard. She made me promise to keep living, not just existing. It took me a while to figure out the difference. Sophia's hand found his, warm and steady. And have you figured it out? Michael looked at their joined hands, at the woman who had crashed into his life as suddenly as her car had crashed through that bridge railing. I'm starting to. The moment stretched between them, fragile and full of possibility. Then Lucy appeared in the doorway, breaking the spell. Dad, there's a weird car parked across the street. It's been there since before Ms. Reynolds arrived. Michael and Sophia exchanged a look. Stay with the girls, he said quietly, moving to the window. The sedan was dark, nondescript, its windows tinted. As Michael watched, it started and pulled away slowly. Probably nothing, he said, returning to the living room. But Sophia's expression had changed, her professional mask slipping back into place. I should go, she said, gathering her things. Early meeting tomorrow. At the door, she hesitated. Michael, And whatever she had been about to say remained unspoken. Instead, she squeezed his arm gently. Lock up carefully tonight. After she left, Michael checked all the doors and windows, activated the security system, and sat in the darkness of the living room watching the street. Lucy's words about Sophia's car accident echoed in his mind, alongside Whitfield's comments about strategic thinking. What had started as a fairy tale rescue was revealing itself as something far more complex. A web of corporate intrigue with the life ream at its center and Sophia caught in the middle. And now, perhaps, his family too. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You're in danger. Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pleasant Valley Bridge. Come alone. Michael stared at the message, heart pounding. The place where everything had started now beckoned him back. But was it a warning or a trap? Outside, in a car now parked several blocks away, a man spoke quietly into his phone. The Reynolds woman has left. Walsh and the daughters are secured for the night, proceeding with Phase 3 tomorrow. On the other end, Marcus Whitfield's voice was cold and precise. Excellent. Remember, we need the engineer and his filtration design. The rest are expendable. The Pleasant Valley Bridge looked different in daylight, an ordinary structure spanning an ordinary river. No sign remained of the broken guardrail repaired weeks ago. No marker indicated where Michael had dove into the waters below, where two lives had collided and changed course forever. Michael arrived early, parking his car at the far end and walking to the middle of the bridge. The mysterious text had kept him awake most of the night, his mind cycling through possibilities, none of them comforting. At exactly 10 a.m., a figure approached from the opposite direction, a woman in a dark coat, her face partially hidden by large sunglasses. As she drew closer, Michael recognized her, Priya, the young engineer from Horizon. Thank you for coming, she said, glancing nervously over her shoulder. I wasn't sure you would. Why all the cloak and dagger? Michael asked, keeping his distance. You could have spoken to me at the office. Not safely. Priya removed her sunglasses, revealing eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. The LifeReam project has been compromised. Someone's been feeding information to a conglomerate called Nexus Health. They're planning to patent a similar technology before we can finalize ours. Michael's engineering mind immediately grasped the implications. They'd block the humanitarian applications. Exactly, Nexus wants to market it exclusively to private hospitals in wealthy countries. The developing world would never see it. How do you know this? Priya's hands twisted together anxiously. My boyfriend works in their legal department. He saw the patent applications being prepared, using technical specifications identical to ours. Specifications that were updated yesterday to include your new filtration design. Michael felt cold despite the morning sun. Victor? I don't know, Priya admitted, but whoever it is, they're well placed. They have access to everything. Security codes, test results, design files. Why tell me? Why not go to Sophia directly? Priya looked away, guilt crossing her features. Because until yesterday, I thought Miss Reynolds might be involved. The financial projections for the Life Ream as a humanitarian project are challenging. The foundation would lose millions. But as a premium product marketed to wealthy nations, Sophia would never sell out like that. I know that now, Priya agreed. After seeing how excited she was about your filtration breakthrough, how committed she is to the original mission, she can't be part of this, but someone close to her is. Whitfield, Michael muttered, remembering the CFO's visit, his comments about strategic thinking. Possibly, or Victor, or both. Priya checked her watch nervously. I need to get back before anyone notices I'm gone. But you should know they're watching you, Michael. Your house, your daughters. Whatever you do, be careful. As she turned to leave, Michael caught her arm. Why risk helping me? You barely know me. Priya's smile was sad. My sister died because she couldn't access dialysis in our village in India. The Life Ream would have saved her. This isn't just a project to me. It's personal. After she left, Michael stood alone on the bridge, staring down at the water that had brought him into this situation. What had seemed like destiny now felt like a carefully orchestrated play, with him cast in a role he hadn't auditioned for. His phone buzzed, a text from Lucy. Dad, there are men in suits at school asking about you. The principal sent them away, but they're waiting outside in a black car. What's going on? Fear gripped Michael's heart. He called the school immediately, identifying himself and explaining there was a security concern, that no one should be allowed to remove his daughters without his direct, in-person authorization. His next call was to Sophia, but it went straight to voicemail. According to her assistant, she was in board meetings all morning, unreachable. Michael drove to the school, his mind racing. If Priya was right, if the Life Ream project had been compromised, then his filtration breakthrough had accelerated whatever endgame was in motion. And now his daughters were potentially in danger. He found Lucy and Emma in the principal's office, both frightened but trying to be brave. The men in suits had left after school security approached them, but Michael took no chances. He signed the girls out for the day. Dad, what's happening? Lucy asked as they hurried to his car. Is this about Ms. Reynolds? About your job? It's complicated, Michael answered, scanning the parking lot for unfamiliar vehicles. But I'm going to fix it. Are we in danger? Emma's voice was small, reminding Michael forcefully of how young she still was. He knelt before his daughters, meeting their eyes with a steadiness he didn't entirely feel. Listen to me. I will never let anything happen to you, never. But right now, we need to go somewhere safe until I sort this out. As they drove away from the school, Michael made another attempt to reach Sophia. Voicemail again. Frustration and fear mingled in his chest. Who could he trust? Where could he take his daughters that was truly safe? The answer came to him suddenly, Tony, from the factory. His old supervisor owned a cabin in the mountains, off the grid, where he went fishing on weekends. Tony had offered it to Michael after Elizabeth died, a place to heal away from painful memories. A quick call confirmed Tony would meet them with the keys. Don't tell me what's going on, Tony said gruffly. Just keep those girls safe. As they headed toward the mountain roads, Michael's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered cautiously. Mr. Walsh. Marcus Whitfield's smooth voice filled the car. I believe we need to talk. I have nothing to say to you, Michael replied, signaling Lucy to find his old phone in the glove compartment. If they were tracking his current phone, on the contrary, you have a great deal to say about your filtration design. Innovative work, elegantly simple, the kind of solution that could save millions of lives, or make millions of dollars depending on how it's applied. What do you want, Whitfield? The same thing Sophia's father wanted before his unfortunate accident. The same thing any businessman wants. Maximum return on investment. The Life Ream was never meant to be a charity project. Samuel understood that. Sophia, unfortunately, allows sentiment to cloud her judgment. Michael's grip tightened on the steering wheel. If you're suggesting Samuel Reynolds' death wasn't an accident, I'm suggesting that history has a way of repeating itself, Whitfield interrupted smoothly, unless wiser heads prevail. You have a choice, Mr. Walsh. Bring your filtration designs to me, agree to head our new commercial division, and your family remains safe. Well, Pleasant Valley Bridge has already claimed one vehicle. It could easily claim another. The threat hung in the air, stark and unmistakable. Michael met Lucy's frightened eyes in the rearview mirror, saw Emma's small hand clutching her sister's. "If you touch my daughters, don't be dramatic," Whitfield chided. "No one wants violence. We're businessmen, not thugs. You have until tomorrow morning to make your decision. I'll text you a meeting location. Come alone. Bring the complete filtration designs." And this ends peacefully. The call disconnected. Michael immediately removed the battery from his phone, then took the old phone from Lucy. "Dad," Lucy's voice was steady despite her fear. "That man threatened us, didn't he?" Michael didn't insult her intelligence by denying it. "Yes, but he won't get near you, I promise." "Is Miss Reynolds in danger too?" Emma asked quietly. The question struck Michael like a physical blow. If Whitfield was willing to threaten his family, what might he do to Sophia, especially if, as Whitfield had implied, he'd already been involved in her father's death? "I think she might be," Michael admitted, "but right now my priority is keeping you two safe." As they continued toward the mountains, Michael's mind raced through possibilities. The cabin would keep the girls secure temporarily, but Whitfield's ultimatum required a response. Surrender the filtration design and betray Sophia's trust, or refuse and risk everything, including, potentially, Sophia's life. What had started as a simple act of courage on a stormy night had evolved into something far more complex. A test not just of bravery, but of integrity, of the values he wanted his daughters to see in him. Tony was waiting at the arranged meeting point, a deserted gas station at the base of the mountain road. He handed over the cabin keys without questions, just a gruff, "It's stocked with enough food for a week. No cell service, but there's a landline for emergencies." "Tony, if anyone asks, haven't seen you in days," Tony finished. "Whatever trouble you're in, Walsh, fix it and come back safe." The cabin was rustic but secure, nestled in dense forest with a single access road. Michael settled the girls inside, explaining that he needed to leave again. "You're going to help Miss Reynolds, aren't you?" Lucy asked, her expression too knowing for her years. "She would help us." "Because she loves you," Emma declared with a child's certainty, "and you love her." The statement caught Michael off guard. Did he love Sophia Reynolds? The woman who had crashed into his life, offered him a second chance, and now stood at the center of a dangerous corporate conspiracy? The woman whose smile made him feel more alive than he had in years? "It's complicated," he hedged. "Love always is," Lucy said with her mother's wisdom. "But that doesn't mean you run from it." Michael hugged his daughters fiercely, memorizing the feel of them in his arms. "I'll be back as soon as I can. Lock the doors. Use the landline only in absolute emergency." As he drove back toward the city, determination hardened in his chest. He wouldn't surrender to Whitfield's threats, wouldn't betray Sophia's trust, but neither would he wait passively for the next move. It was time to fight back, to use the same engineering mind that had solved the Life Ream's filtration problems to outmaneuver whatever Whitfield had planned. And the first step was finding Sophia before Whitfield did. Night had fallen by the time Michael reached Horizon's campus. Using his employee badge, he entered through a service entrance, avoiding the main security desk. The research floors were mostly empty, just a few dedicated scientists working late. Michael headed straight for Sophia's office, but found it dark and locked. Her assistant's desk showed no signs of recent occupation, no half-empty coffee cups, no notes about afternoon meetings. It was as if Sophia had simply vanished after her morning meetings. On instinct, Michael made his way to the Life Ream lab. There he found Victor alone, hunched over a workstation. "Where's Sophia?" Michael demanded without preamble. Victor looked up, surprise quickly masked by irritation. "Walsh, I assumed you'd resigned when you didn't show up today." "Where is she, Victor?" Something in Michael's tone must have communicated the urgency. Victor's expression shifted from annoyance to weariness. "She left after the board meeting, said she needed to handle a personal matter." He hesitated. "She seemed agitated, asked me to secure the Life Ream prototypes in the vault, including your filtration system." "Did she say where she was going?" Victor shook his head. "But Whitfield left with her, said he needed to discuss security concerns." Michael's blood ran cold. "How long ago?" 4, maybe 5 hours. Victor was studying him now with growing concern. "Walsh, what's going on?" Instead of answering, Michael asked, The prototype using my filtration design? It's in the vault? Yes, along with all the design files. Sophia was quite insistent. Show me. Victor hesitated only briefly before leading Michael to a secure room at the back of the lab. A reinforced door with a biometric scanner protected what appeared to be a walk-in vault. I can't open it without Sophia's authorization, Victor explained. Dual security protocol. Michael's mind raced. If the prototype and designs were secure, what was Whitfield's play? Why threaten Michael's family to obtain something already in Whitfield's reach through Sophia? Unless, was Sophia wearing her silver pendant today? The one she always touches when she's nervous. Victor frowned, thinking, yes, always does. And the vault, it needs both Sophia's biometrics and someone else's? Hers and Whitfield's, or mine, or any department head. Standard security protocol for sensitive assets. The pieces clicked into place in Michael's mind. Whitfield's plan, the threat to his family, Sophia's sudden disappearance. Victor, I think Sophia's in danger. I think Whitfield plans to use her to access the vault, then eliminate anyone who could expose his plan to sell the LifeReam technology to Nexus Health. Victor's face paled. That's absurd. Marcus was Samuel's closest friend. He helped build this company. And now he's willing to betray it for profit. Michael's voice hardened. Think, Victor. Has Whitfield been pushing for more commercial applications for the LifeReam, arguing against the humanitarian focus? The researcher's expression shifted as memories aligned with Michael's theory. He's been pressuring the board for months to reconsider the foundation approach, said it was financially unsustainable. And Sophia's father's death, you said it was an accident? Car crash, Victor confirmed, unease growing in his expression. Bad weather, mountain road, like Sophia's recent accident. He stopped, the implication hitting him. My God. We need to find her, Michael said urgently, before Whitfield forces her to access the vault, and then he couldn't finish the sentence. Victor pulled out his phone. I'll call security, the police. No, Michael stopped him. If Whitfield has inside help, that could alert him. We need to find her ourselves. He thought quickly. The pendant she wears, does it have any special significance? It was her father's, Victor said. Some kind of family heirloom. She never takes it off. Michael remembered how often Sophia touched it during moments of stress or emotion. It's more than that. Her security team would never leave her unprotected, not after her car accident. That pendant, I think it's a tracking device. How would we access that data? Her head of security, Michael realized. Thomas, her driver. He'd know. A quick call to Thomas confirmed Michael's suspicion. The pendant contained a GPS tracker, standard protocol for high-value executives in the tech industry. Thomas agreed to meet them at a secure location with the tracking data. 20 minutes later, Michael and Victor huddled with Thomas over a laptop in a 24-hour diner miles from Horizon's campus. The signal's been stationary for 3 hours, Thomas reported, indicating a blinking dot on the screen. It's an abandoned research facility Horizon used to own, about 40 minutes north of the city. Why would Whitfield take her there, Victor wondered. Michael studied the satellite view of the facility. Isolation, privacy, and if I had to guess, proximity to a private airfield. He pointed to a small airstrip visible just beyond the facility's perimeter. Once he has what he wants, he'll need to disappear quickly. Thomas's face was grim. I have 3 security personnel I trust absolutely. They can meet us there, but we should still call the police. Michael thought of his daughters hidden away in the mountain cabin, of Whitfield's threat against them. Not yet. If Whitfield has leverage over Sophia, if he's threatening her the way he threatened my family, involving the police could push him to desperate action. What's the plan then? Victor asked. Michael looked at the facility schematic Thomas had pulled up. Years of solving mechanical problems on the factory floor, of finding workarounds with limited resources, had trained his mind to see solutions where others saw only obstacles. We go in quiet, he decided. Thomas's team secures the perimeter. Victor and I find Sophia and the LifeReam data before Whitfield can move it. No heroics, no confrontations unless absolutely necessary. As the men nodded in agreement, Michael felt a strange calm descend. The path from the river rescue to this moment suddenly seemed clear. Not coincidence, but purpose. Everything in his life had prepared him for this. The engineering knowledge to understand what was at stake, the practical experience to formulate a plan, and the unwavering commitment to protecting those he cared about. What he couldn't know was that Whitfield had anticipated his moves, that even now men were watching the cabin where his daughters hid, waiting for orders. Or that Sophia, bound to a chair in a disused laboratory, was fighting not just for her life, but for Michael's as well, refusing to access the life ream data despite Whitfield's increasing threats. In the darkness of the abandoned facility, two desperate games of human chess were converging, and the next move would determine whether Michael's river rescue would become a footnote in a tragedy or the beginning of something entirely new. The old Horizon Research Facility loomed against the night sky, its darkened windows like blind eyes watching their approach. Michael, Victor, and Thomas's small security team moved silently across the overgrown grounds, guided by the faint blue dot on Thomas's tracking screen. "Signal's still active," Thomas whispered. "Third floor, east wing." Michael studied the building's exterior. Emergency exits, utility access, possible entry points. His mind cataloged them automatically, an engineer's assessment merging with a father's protective instinct. "We need a distraction," he decided, "something to draw attention away from Sophia's location." Victor held up a small device. "Emergency protocols never got deactivated when the facility closed. I can trigger the fire suppression system from here." Thomas nodded approvingly. "My team will cover the exits. No one leaves with any life ream data." The plan was simple but effective. Victor would trigger the alarms, creating confusion. During the chaos, Michael would make his way to Sophia while Thomas's team secured the building. No guns, no heroics, just quick, decisive action. As they moved into position, Michael's phone vibrated. The old one, not the device Whitfield had called. The screen showed a text from Lucy. "Dad, there's a car parked at the bottom of the mountain road. Men with flashlights heading up toward the cabin. What do we do?" Fear gripped Michael's heart. He'd underestimated Whitfield. The man had hedged his bets, tracking both Michael and his daughters as leverage. His fingers flew across the keypad. "Hide in the crawl space behind the water heater. Stay silent. I'm coming." But he wasn't coming. Couldn't come. Not with Sophia's life hanging in the balance. The impossible choice tore at him. His daughters, or the woman he'd risked his life to save, who'd given him a second chance, whose smile made his heart race even in the midst of danger. Thomas noticed his distress. "What's wrong?" Michael showed him the text. "Whitfield's men found my daughters. I need to go." "We'll handle this," Thomas said immediately. "No." The decision crystallized in Michael's mind. "My daughters know to hide. They're smart, resourceful, but they're also my responsibility." He pulled Victor aside. "I need your car keys, and I need you both to promise me something." Minutes later, the facility's fire alarms blared to life, emergency lights painting the corridors in pulsing red. Michael moved through the chaos with single-minded focus, counting on Thomas's team to handle any security Whitfield had posted. The third floor was eerily silent despite the alarms, the abandoned laboratories like scientific graveyards. Michael followed the tracker signal to a large room at the end of the corridor, its doors ajar. Inside, he found Sophia tied to a chair, her elegant business attire rumpled, a small cut on her cheek, but her eyes blazing with defiance. Across from her, Marcus Whitfield looked up in surprise, a laptop open before him. "Walsh?" Whitfield recovered quickly. "I wasn't expecting you until tomorrow. How considerate of you to deliver yourself early." "Let her go," Michael said, stepping fully into the room. "It's over, Whitfield. Security teams are surrounding the building." Whitfield's laugh was cold. "Bluffing doesn't suit you, engineer. My men would have alerted me to any approach." He pulled out a phone. "Speaking of alerts, shall we check on your lovely daughters? My team should be reaching the cabin about now." Michael's heart hammered against his ribs, but he kept his expression neutral. "Touch them, and I guarantee the life ream design will never reach Nexus Health." "Michael, no." Sophia's voice was hoarse but steady. "He killed my father. He'll kill us all once he has what he wants." Whitfield sighed theatrically. "Such melodrama. Your father's death was a tragic accident, Sophia, just as yours will be, a devastating repeat of history. The driven CEO, working too late, lost control of her vehicle on a deserted road. With her trusted head engineer in the passenger seat, Michael challenged him. That's your plan? Another staged accident to cover your corporate espionage? Plans adapt, Whitfield shrugged. Perhaps you'll both be victims of a disgruntled employee. Victor Harrington, for instance, who was so jealous of your success with the life ream that he snapped. Victor would do whatever secured his future, Whitfield cut in, just like everyone else. Your value, Mr. Walsh, is your engineering brilliance, not your moral compass. I'm offering you a place at Nexus Health, heading their new medical technologies division. A future for your daughters. Security. Comfort. At the cost of millions who need the life ream, Sophia said, her voice rising. People will die, Marcus. Real people. Is that worth your profit margin? Business is business, my dear. Your father understood that before his change of heart. Whitfield's tone hardened. Now, Mr. Walsh, your decision, your daughters or your principles? The fire alarms continued to wail, but they seemed distant now, muffled by the weight of the moment. Michael's mind raced. Thomas's team would be securing the building, but they wouldn't move in without his signal. And his daughters were still in danger. He needed time, just a little more time. Show me they're safe, Michael demanded. Live video of my daughters right now or no deal. Whitfield considered this, then nodded. He spoke into his phone, giving instructions. A moment later, the screen lit up with a grainy video feed. The cabin's exterior, two men approaching the door. Happy? Whitfield asked. Now about your decision. You said you have a team at the cabin, Michael interrupted. How many? 2. Your best men? My best men. Michael met Sophia's eyes. He needed her to understand, to trust him. And they have orders to secure your daughters, Whitfield said smoothly. Unharmed, of course, unless I tell them otherwise. Michael nodded slowly. I'll do it. I'll work for Nexus. But I have conditions. Michael, don't, Sophia pleaded. Interesting. Whitfield's eyebrows rose. What conditions? First, my daughters remain untouched. Second, Sophia walks away unharmed. Third, I want 48 hours to finalize the filtration designs before handover. Whitfield studied him. The first 2 I can accept. The third, 12 hours, no more. 24, Michael countered, and I need to speak to my daughters now, confirm they're safe. As Whitfield considered this, Michael shifted slightly, reaching into his pocket. Not for a weapon, he wasn't that kind of man, but for something else, something he had prepared based on a hunch and years of practical problem solving. Very well, Whitfield finally agreed. 24 hours, but you'll work here under supervision. He gestured to his phone. Call your daughters, assure them everything is fine. Then you'll release the biometric locks on the LifeReam data vault remotely using Sophia's credentials. Michael nodded, taking the offered phone. As he dialed the cabin's landline, he watched Whitfield from the corner of his eye. The man was confident, relaxed, the posture of someone who believed he'd won. The phone rang once, twice. On the third ring, Lucy's tentative voice answered. Lucy, it's Dad. Michael kept his voice calm, though his heart raced. Are you and Emma okay? We're fine. Her voice was tight, controlled. We're watching a movie. Their code phrase. They were hidden as instructed. Good. Stay inside. I'll be back soon. Michael chose his next words carefully. Remember what we talked about? About the water heater? Make sure it's turned up high enough. It gets cold at night. I will, Dad. Lucy's voice steadied, understanding. We'll be waiting. The call ended. Michael handed the phone back to Whitfield, who was watching him with narrowed eyes. Touching, the CFO said dryly. Now the vault access. Michael stepped toward the laptop, positioning himself so that he was between Whitfield and Sophia. As he leaned over the keyboard, he slipped his hand into his pocket again, this time palming the small device he'd created from parts scavenged at the lab, a crude but effective signal jammer. Just need to enter the authentication sequence, Michael said, typing. Sophia, I need your voice print. Say, authorize access protocol 793. Sophia's eyes widened slightly, recognizing that there was no such protocol, but she trusted him. Authorize access protocol 793, she repeated clearly. The moment Whitfield turned to look at the screen, Michael activated the jammer. All electronic communications in a 30-foot radius, including Whitfield's phone link to his men at the cabin, went dead. In the same motion, Michael pulled the knife he'd taken from Thomas and cut Sophia's bonds. "Run!" he shouted, pushing her toward the door. Whitfield lunged forward, but Michael was ready. He tackled the older man, sending them both crashing to the floor. Whitfield was stronger than he looked, his expensive suit hiding a physique maintained by private trainers. They grappled, rolling across the laboratory floor. "You fool," Whitfield hissed, landing a punch that split Michael's lip. "You've signed your daughter's death warrant." "No," Michael grunted, blocking the next blow. "I've cut your comms. Your men can't receive new orders." Whitfield's eyes widened with realization just as Sophia reappeared in the doorway, not fleeing as Michael had expected, but returning with a fire extinguisher. With perfect aim, she unleashed its contents directly into Whitfield's face. The CFO reeled back, choking and blinded. Michael scrambled to his feet, grabbing Sophia's hand. "We need to move. Now!" They raced through the corridors, the fire alarm still blaring. At the stairwell, they met Thomas and two of his security team. "We've secured the exits," Thomas reported. "3 of Whitfield's men in custody. No sign of the life ream data." "It's still at Horizon," Michael said, breathing hard. "Whitfield was trying to force us to access it remotely." Sophia turned to Thomas. "We need to get to the cabin. Michael's daughters—" "Already handled," Thomas assured them. "I dispatched a team as soon as Michael showed me the text. They should be arriving now." Relief flooded Michael's system, making his knees weak, but they weren't safe yet. "Whitfield's still up there," he warned, "and he's desperate." As if summoned by his words, a gunshot echoed through the building. Then another. "Move," Thomas ordered, pushing them toward the exit. Cars waiting outside. They raced through the abandoned facility, past darkened laboratories filled with ghostly shrouded equipment. Another shot rang out, closer this time, followed by the sound of running feet. "He's coming," Sophia gasped, her hand tightened Michael's. They burst through the exit door into the cool night air, sprinting across the overgrown grounds toward the waiting vehicle. Behind them, the door slammed open again. "Sophia!" Whitfield's voice carried across the darkness. "This isn't over." Thomas's men turned, weapons raised, but Whitfield had already disappeared back into the building. In the car, speeding away from the facility, Michael finally allowed himself to breathe. Sophia sat beside him, her hands still in his, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. "My daughters," he asked Thomas, who was driving. "Safe," the security chief confirmed. "My team arrived just as Whitfield's men were breaking in. They've been discouraged." Michael sagged with relief. Then another thought struck him. "The life ream data is still secure," Sophia assured him, "but Whitfield will try again. He's invested too much to give up now." "Then we need to be ready," Michael said grimly. "This isn't over." Sophia's fingers tightened around his. "No, but at least now we're fighting together." As the car sped through the night toward the mountain cabin where his daughters waited, Michael thought about the choices that had led him here. The dive into a river on a stormy night, the decision to accept Sophia's job offer, the trust he'd placed in her despite the secrets and danger. None of it had been coincidence. From the moment their eyes had met through that car window, their paths had been intertwined, a connection Whitfield had tried to exploit but had only strengthened instead. The next 24 hours would determine everything, not just the fate of the life ream technology, but the lives of everyone he cared about. And Michael Walsh, former factory worker, engineer, father, was ready. What he couldn't know was that the final confrontation would come not in some high-tech laboratory or corporate boardroom, but back where it all began, on Pleasant Valley Bridge, where the courage of one man had set in motion a chain of events that would test not just his bravery, but the very essence of who he was and what he stood for. And this time, the waters below would not be so forgiving. The mountain cabin was warm and bright when they arrived, a stark contrast to the darkness they'd left behind. The moment Michael stepped through the door, Emma launched herself into his arms, nearly knocking him backward. Lucy stood a few feet away, her eyes suspiciously bright, but her composure intact, trying so hard to be grown up. "I knew you'd come," Emma mumbled against his chest. "I told Lucy you'd save us." Michael held her tightly, reaching out his other arm to draw Lucy into the embrace. For a moment, he simply breathed them in, these miracles who had kept him going through the darkest days after Elizabeth's death, these children who had shown more courage tonight than anyone should ever have to. "Are you hurt?" he asked, pulling back to examine them. "We're fine, Dad," Lucy assured him. "We hid like you said, and then Miss Reynolds' security people came. They were impressive." Michael glanced over at Thomas, who stood by the door with two of his team. The security chief gave a modest nod. "My men arrived just in time. Whitfield's team was attempting to breach the back door." "What happened to them?" Michael asked quietly, conscious of his daughters listening. Thomas's smile was cold. "Let's just say they have been encouraged to seek employment elsewhere, possibly in another state." Sophia had remained in the doorway, giving the family their moment. Now she stepped forward, her business attire torn and dirty, the cut on her cheek beginning to bruise. Despite it all, she carried herself with the same dignity she'd shown that first morning on Michael's doorstep. "Emma, Lucy," she said softly, "I am so sorry you were put in danger because of me." Emma broke away from Michael, marching directly to Sophia. "It's not your fault bad men want to steal your invention," she declared with the absolutism of childhood. "Dad says you're trying to help people. That's what matters." Sophia knelt to the little girl's level, her composure cracking just slightly. "Your father is a very wise man." "He is," Lucy agreed, joining them, "and he was really worried about you." Sophia's eyes met Michael's over the girls' heads, a world of unspoken feeling passing between them. "I was worried about him too." Thomas cleared his throat. "We should move to a more secure location. Whitfield is still out there, and he knows about this cabin." "Where can we go?" Michael asked. "He'll be watching my house, Sophia's place." "I have a safe house prepared," Thomas explained. "Off the books, not even on Horizon security protocols." Sophia nodded. "Thomas has been preparing contingencies since my father's accident. I thought he was being paranoid." "Not paranoid," Thomas corrected gently. "Just prepared." As they gathered the girls' things, Michael pulled Thomas aside. "Those men at the cabin, did they have orders regarding my daughters?" Thomas's expression hardened. "Let's just say it's fortunate we arrived when we did." The implications sent ice through Michael's veins. Whitfield had been willing to use children as leverage, or worse. The man's ruthlessness was even greater than Michael had feared. Within 20 minutes, they were on the road again, this time in an unmarked SUV with Thomas at the wheel. The girls dozed in the back seat, exhaustion claiming them after the adrenaline crash. Michael and Sophia sat in the middle row, both lost in thought. "I should have told you," Sophia said finally, her voice barely audible over the hum of the engine. "About the threats, about the real value of the life ream technology, about my suspicions regarding my father's death." "Would it have made a difference?" Michael asked. "Would I have turned down the job, kept my distance?" "Most sensible people wouldn't have jumped into a river during a storm to save a stranger." Michael reminded her with a faint smile. "Sensible isn't exactly my defining characteristic." Sophia's laugh was soft, tinged with something that might have been a sob. "Lucky for me." Silence fell between them again, comfortable despite the circumstances. Michael was acutely aware of her beside him, the faint scent of her perfume still detectable beneath the antiseptic smell of the fire extinguisher, the steady rhythm of her breathing, the way her hand rested just inches from his on the seat between them. "What happens now?" he asked finally. "Thomas will take us to the safe house. We'll contact the authorities, provide evidence of Whitfield's corporate espionage and attempted kidnapping." "No," Michael interrupted gently. "I mean with the life ream, with your company, with—" He hesitated. "With us." Sophia turned to look at him fully, vulnerability plain in her expression. "I don't know," she admitted. "My entire adult life has been about building Horizon, about fulfilling the vision my father and I shared. I never allowed myself to think about other possibilities. Until I looked up and saw someone diving into a river to save me." Her voice caught. No agenda, no angle, just courage and compassion in their purest form. Michael's hand moved to cover hers. "I'm nothing special, Sophia. Just a guy who did what needed doing." "That's exactly what makes you special." Her fingers intertwined with his. "In my world, people calculate everything. Costs, benefits, risks, returns. You just act from the heart." From the front seat, Thomas cleared his throat. "We're here." The safe house was a modest cabin on a small lake, far more rustic than Michael had expected for someone of Sophia's status. As Thomas secured the perimeter, Michael settled his exhausted daughters into a small bedroom with twin beds. They fell asleep almost instantly, Emma still clutching the stuffed rabbit she'd had since infancy, Lucy with one hand under her pillow, protectively close to her sister. In the main room, Sophia stood by the window, staring out at the moonlight reflecting off the lake surface. She'd found a first aid kit and cleaned the cut on her cheek, changed into clothes Thomas had apparently stocked in advance. Simple jeans and a sweater that made her look younger, more vulnerable. Quite a change from the corporate penthouse, Michael observed, joining her. My father built this place when I was a child, she explained. Before Horizon, before the money. We would come here every summer, just the two of us, fishing, swimming, reading on the porch during thunderstorms. Her voice softened with memory. It was the only place I ever saw him truly relax. And now it's your sanctuary. One Whitfield doesn't know about. She turned to face him. Only Thomas knew my father owned this property. It's not in any of the company records, not part of the estate, just ours. The intimacy of her sharing this place, this piece of her history, was not lost on Michael. He stepped closer, drawn by some invisible force that had been pulling them together since that first night. We'll stop him, he promised. We'll protect the life ream, make sure it reaches the people who need it. It's not that simple, Sophia sighed. Whitfield has been planning this for years. He has connections throughout the company, throughout the industry, and now he's desperate, which makes him even more dangerous. Then we'll need to outsmart him, Michael said. Use his desperation against him. How? Michael smiled, his engineer's mind already formulating a plan. We give him exactly what he wants, but not in the way he expects. They spent the next hour huddled over the small kitchen table, formulating a strategy. Thomas joined them, providing insights into Horizon security systems and Whitfield's likely next moves. He'll expect us to go to the authorities, Thomas reasoned, but he's too well connected. By the time an investigation could be launched, the life ream data would be gone, and we'd have no proof of his involvement. So we need to catch him in the act, Michael concluded, red-handed, with no room for denial or legal maneuvering. Exactly, Sophia agreed. But how? The vault is secure, and he can't access it without either my biometrics or those of a department head. Michael thought back to the abandoned facility, to Whitfield's original plan. He doesn't need to access the vault directly. He just needs someone who can, under duress, if necessary. Victor, Sophia realized. He'll go after Victor next. But Victor's expecting that now, Thomas pointed out. He's been moved to a secure location with round-the-clock protection. Then Whitfield will need another approach, Michael drummed his fingers on the table thinking. Another way to access the data or another target. Priya, Sophia finished, her eyes widening. She doesn't have vault access, but she knows the Life Ream project inside and out. With her help, Whitfield could recreate enough of the design to satisfy Nexus Health. We need to warn her, Michael said, reaching for his phone. But Thomas stopped him. Use this, the security chief said, handing him a secure satellite phone. Untraceable. Michael dialed Priya's number, but it went straight to voicemail. A sick feeling settled in his stomach. No answer. Thomas was already moving, grabbing his jacket. I'll check her apartment. Bring her in if necessary. Be careful, Sophia warned. Whitfield's desperate now. He won't hesitate to eliminate obstacles. After Thomas left, Michael and Sophia continued refining their plan, a trap that would use Whitfield's own greed and desperation against him. It was risky, with too many variables, but it was the best chance they had. We should get some rest, Sophia suggested eventually, noticing Michael's exhaustion. Tomorrow will be challenging. He nodded, though the thought of sleep seemed impossible, with his mind racing through contingencies and his body still humming with residual adrenaline. I'll take the couch, he offered. You should have the bedroom. Don't be ridiculous, Sophia countered. This place has 3 bedrooms. I'm not going to make you sleep on the couch after everything you've done. Michael hesitated. I want to stay close to the girls, after tonight. Understanding softened her features. Of course. I'm sorry, I didn't think— No, I'm sorry, he interrupted. I didn't mean to imply— Michael. She stepped closer, resting a hand on his arm. It's okay. I understand. They stood like that for a long moment, close enough that he could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes, could count each individual eyelash. The air between them seemed to crackle with unspoken feelings, with possibilities both thrilling and terrifying. Slowly giving her every chance to pull away, Michael raised his hand to her face, his thumb gently tracing the bruise forming on her cheek. Sophia leaned into his touch, her eyes never leaving his. I was so afraid, she whispered. Oh, when I thought about what might happen to you, to your daughters. I know, he murmured. Me too. The distance between them disappeared as naturally as breathing, their lips meeting in a kiss that felt like coming home after a long journey. Sophia's arm slid around his neck as Michael pulled her closer, the world narrowing to just this moment, just this connection that had been building since the night he'd pulled her from the river. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Michael rested his forehead against hers. We should probably talk about this, he said softly. Sophia's laugh was quiet but genuine. Probably, but not tonight. She stepped back, reluctance evident in every line of her body. Tonight, we both need rest. Tomorrow will require all our focus. Michael nodded, knowing she was right. Good night, Sophia. Good night, Michael. She paused at the hallway entrance. And thank you, not just for tonight, but for reminding me what's worth fighting for. As she disappeared down the hall, Michael sank onto the couch, overwhelmed by the events of the day and the emotions of the moment. Outside, the lake reflected moonlight in rippling patterns against the cabin walls, peaceful and serene, a stark contrast to the danger that still lurked beyond this temporary sanctuary. Tomorrow, they would spring their trap, confront Whitfield, and hopefully end this nightmare. But tonight, despite everything, Michael Walsh felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Not just for survival, but for happiness. For a future that included not only his daughters, but perhaps the remarkable woman who had crashed into his life as unexpectedly as her car had crashed through that bridge railing. With that thought warming him, he finally drifted into sleep, unaware that across the lake, in the darkness of the trees, the lens of a high-powered camera captured the cabin in perfect detail. And behind that lens, one of Whitfield's most trusted operatives was already reporting their location. The trap was indeed being set, but not by those inside the cabin. Dawn broke over the lake, painting the water in shades of pink and gold. Michael woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of soft voices from the kitchen. For a moment, disorientation gripped him. The unfamiliar ceiling, the lingering ache in his muscles from the confrontation with Whitfield. Then memory returned in a rush. The abandoned facility, the escape, the safe house, the kiss. He sat up, running a hand through his hair. Through the doorway, he could see Sophia and his daughters in the kitchen. Emma was perched on a stool, chattering animatedly, while Sophia flipped pancakes. Lucy stood nearby, carefully setting the table, her expression watchful but relaxed. The domesticity of the scene struck Michael like a physical blow. How long had it been since he'd seen his daughters so at ease with another adult? Since he'd woken to the sounds of a family breakfast rather than the hurried efficiency of their morning routine? Dad! Emma spotted him first, sliding off her stool to bound across the room. Ms. Reynolds is making pancakes. Real ones, not from the box. Is that so? Michael caught her mid-leap, lifting her high before setting her down. I didn't know CEOs could cook. I contain multitudes, Sophia replied with a smile, echoing his words from his conversation with Whitfield. She looked different this morning, more relaxed despite the bruise on her cheek. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she'd rolled up the sleeves of her borrowed sweater to keep them from the batter. Sleep okay? She asked, a slight flush coloring her cheeks as their eyes met. Better than expected, he admitted, accepting the coffee mug Lucy handed him. Any word from Thomas? Sophia's expression sobered. He found Priya's apartment empty, signs of a struggle. He's tracking her phone now. Michael's stomach dropped. Another innocent caught in Whitfield's web. We need to move quickly then. After breakfast, Lucy interjected firmly, sounding so much like her mother that it made Michael's heart twist. You need to eat, Dad. Sophia nodded agreement. She's right, we can't help Priya if we're running on empty. So they ate together, this makeshift family in a borrowed sanctuary, trying to maintain normalcy for the girl's sake. Michael observed the easy way Sophia interacted with his daughters, listening to Emma's detailed explanation of her science project, engaging Lucy in a discussion about volleyball strategy. There was nothing condescending in her manner, no sense that she was humoring them. She treated them as people worth listening to, worth knowing. After breakfast, while the girls explored the small bookshelf in the living room, Michael and Sophia retreated to the porch to finalize their plan. Thomas confirmed that Whitfield accessed the Horizon mainframe at 2 a.m., Sophia reported, her voice low. He was searching for information on the Life Ream's backup servers. Did he find anything? Nothing real, she assured him. But Thomas planted a trail, breadcrumbs suggesting that I maintain an offline backup at my personal residence. So Whitfield will go there next, Michael concluded, and we'll be waiting. Exactly. The house is already under surveillance. The moment Whitfield or his men appear, we'll have them on multiple cameras. Combined with Priya's testimony, it should be enough to convince even Whitfield's allies on the board. And if he doesn't take the bait, Sophia's expression hardened, then we move to Plan B. We release everything to the media. The Life Ream specs, evidence of Whitfield's corporate espionage, our suspicions about my father's death. It would damage Horizon's stock price, might even set the Life Ream project back years, but it would be worth it to stop Whitfield, Michael finished. She nodded, determination evident in every line of her face. The Life Ream was always meant to help people, not enrich shareholders. I won't let Marcus pervert my father's legacy. Michael reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. We'll stop him. Together. The moment was interrupted by the sound of tires on gravel. They both tensed, but it was only Thomas returning, his expression grim. Priya? Sophia asked as he joined them on the porch. Thomas shook his head. No sign of her yet, but we intercepted communications between Whitfield and Nexus Health. They're meeting tonight to finalize terms for the Life Ream technology transfer, which means Whitfield needs to secure the data today. He's running out of time, Michael concluded. And out of options, Sophia agreed. Thomas handed Sophia a small case. As requested, untraceable but fully functional. She opened it to reveal what looked like her silver pendant, the one she always wore, the one that contained the tracking device. But this one was different, modified. Is that, Michael began, a recording device, Sophia confirmed, one that will transmit directly to Thomas's secure server. If we can get Whitfield to incriminate himself on record, we won't need to worry about his connections or legal maneuvering. Clever, Trishy, Michael finished, impressed. I had a good teacher, she said, smiling at him. Someone who knows how to solve problems with practical solutions. The warmth in her eyes made Michael's heart skip a beat. Even here, even now, with danger closing in, she had a way of making him feel seen in a way he hadn't experienced since Elizabeth. Their moment was interrupted by Lucy appearing in the doorway, her expression serious. Dad, there's something you should see. Inside, Emma had turned on the small television in the corner of the living room. On screen, a news reporter stood outside Horizon's headquarters, where police cars were visible in the background. Allegations of corporate espionage have rocked the tech giant Horizon Technologies this morning, the reporter was saying. Sources close to the investigation suggest that CEO Sophia Reynolds and a key engineer may have been kidnapped by individuals seeking access to proprietary technology. Horizon's board of directors has issued a statement. Whitfield, Sophia breathed. He's controlling the narrative. The camera cut to Marcus Whitfield himself looking appropriately concerned as he addressed reporters outside Horizon's main entrance. We are deeply concerned for Ms. Reynolds' safety, he said, his performance flawless. The technology in question, a revolutionary medical device called the Life Ream, represents years of research and billions in investment. We fear that industrial saboteurs may be holding Sophia against her will to gain access to this proprietary data. He's setting us up, Michael realized, making it look like we're the thieves. And he's throwing in just enough truth to make it believable, Thomas added grimly. On screen, Whitfield continued, we are cooperating fully with authorities and have implemented additional security measures to protect the Life Ream data. Our primary concern, however, is the safe return of Sophia and our employee, Michael Walsh. If anyone has information regarding their whereabouts, we urge you to contact the police immediately. Sophia turned off the television, her expression thunderous. He's painting himself as the concerned executive while setting us up to take the fall. It's actually smart, Thomas admitted reluctantly. This way, if you do go public with accusations against him, it looks like you're trying to deflect attention from your own theft. So what do we do now? Michael asked. Our plan depended on Whitfield operating in the shadows. Now he's put us in the spotlight. Sophia was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then she straightened, decision made. We changed the plan. Instead of waiting for Whitfield to come to us, we go to him. That's too dangerous, Thomas objected immediately. No, Michael said slowly, understanding Sophia's strategy. It's actually perfect. Whitfield's expecting us to hide, to run. He's not prepared for a direct confrontation. Exactly, Sophia agreed. We show up at Horizon completely calm, explaining that we've been working at a remote location due to security concerns. We expose Whitfield's lies before he can solidify them. But what about the life ream data? Thomas asked. Whitfield still needs it for his deal with Nexus Health. The moment you reappear, he'll accelerate his plans. That's counting on him knowing where the data is, Michael pointed out. But what if we move it? Create a new backup that only we know about. The vault requires biometric access from both Sophia and a department head, Thomas reminded him. Victor, Sophia said immediately. He has access, and he's already on our side. Whitfield will be watching Victor closely, Thomas warned. Michael's mind raced, engineering problems and solutions clicking into place like puzzle pieces. We don't need to physically access the vault, he realized. Just create a logical pathway that bypasses the standard security protocols. A backdoor. But that would require high-level system access, Sophia caught on immediately. Which you have, Michael pointed out. And if we route it through an unexpected channel, say the building's environmental control systems, which I happen to know use an older, less secure protocol, we could create a temporary access point. Just long enough to extract the data to a secure location, Sophia finished, excitement building in her voice, and then spring our trap. Thomas looked between them, shaking his head in reluctant admiration. You two are either brilliant or insane. Probably both, Sophia admitted with a small smile. But it's our best option. Michael turned to his daughters, who had been listening with wide eyes. Girls, I need you to stay here with Thomas. It's the safest place for you right now. Lucy's expression turned mutinous. No way. We're not letting you go without us. Lucy, Dad. Her voice was steady, so much older than her 13 years. That man was willing to hurt us to get to you. What if he tries again? What if he uses us as leverage? We're safer with you. She's right, Sophia said softly. Whitfield knows about this place now. The girls would be safer in a more public location where he can't move against them without witnesses. Michael studied his daughters' determined faces. Lucy, so like her mother, strong, stubborn, protective. Emma watching him with complete trust, certain that her father would make everything right. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him, but also steadied him. All right, he conceded finally, but you stay with Tommen at all times. No wandering off, no heroics. Understood. Both girls nodded solemnly. Then let's go spring our trap, Michael said, his resolve hardening. It's time to end this. The drive back to the city was tense but focused. Michael sat in the back with his daughters while Sophia rode up front with Thomas, making calls on a secure line to set their plan in motion. Victor would meet them at a predetermined location. Trusted security personnel were being positioned strategically. The board members not aligned with Whitfield were being quietly briefed. What if he just denies everything? Lucy asked suddenly, voicing the concern that had been nagging at Michael as well. That's why we need the recording, Michael explained, nodding toward the modified pendant now hanging around Sophia's neck, and why we need to catch him in the act of trying to steal the life ream data. It's like a spy movie, Emma whispered, equal parts excited and frightened. Except in spy movies, the good guys always win, Lucy muttered. Real life isn't that simple. Michael put his arm around her shoulders. No, it's not. But in real life, good guys have something better than movie scripts. They have each other. They have principles worth fighting for. And sometimes, that's enough. As they approached the city limits, Thomas's secure phone rang. His expression darkened as he listened. Understood. Keep monitoring. He hung up, glancing at Sophia. Priya's been found. Hospital admitted her an hour ago under a different name. Concussion, broken ribs. Is she all right? Michael asked, concern tightening his chest. Stable, Thomas reported, and talking. She told police she was attacked by men demanding information about the life ream. Did she mention Whitfield? Sophia asked. Not directly, but she described one of her attackers as having a distinctive Rolex, one identical to the watch Whitfield's head of security wears. It's not enough, Michael realized. We still need direct evidence. Then we'll get it, Sophia said firmly. Her phone chimed with an incoming message. Victor's in position. The backdoor access is ready. They parked several blocks from Horizon headquarters, switching to an unmarked van for the final approach. The company's distinctive glass tower loomed ahead, its sleek architecture suddenly seeming ominous rather than innovative. Remember the plan, Thomas instructed as he distributed earpieces to everyone, including the girls. We enter through the service entrance. Security has been informed of our arrival. Only those we trust. Sophia and Michael head to the executive floor to confront Whitfield publicly. I'll stay with the girls in the security office where they'll be safe and monitored. And if something goes wrong, Michael asked, the question that had been weighing on him since they'd left the lake house. Thomas's expression was grim. That's why I'm giving you this. He handed Michael a small device that looked like a key fob. Panic button. Press it, and every security officer not compromised by Whitfield will converge on your location within 60 seconds. Let's hope we don't need it, Sophia said, but she accepted a similar device without hesitation. The service entrance was quiet, just as Thomas had promised. They moved through the building's lower levels efficiently, avoiding the main lobbies and public areas where they might be recognized. In the security office, monitors showed various areas of the building, including Whitfield's office on the executive floor. He's there, Thomas confirmed, pointing to a screen where they could see Whitfield at his desk, speaking intently on the phone. And he's alone. Perfect, Sophia said, squeezing Michael's hand briefly. Ready? Michael looked at his daughters, memorizing their faces in case, no, he wouldn't think that way. Ready. Lucy stepped forward, hugging him fiercely. Be careful, Dad. Always am, kiddo. He ruffled Emma's hair gently. Take care of your sister, he told her, their long-standing joke when he left them with babysitters. I will, Emma promised solemnly. And Ms. Reynolds, too. Sophia smiled at that, visibly touched. I'm counting on it. With one last look at his daughters, Michael followed Sophia into the elevator that would take them to the executive floor. As the doors closed, he felt an odd sense of clarity descend. Whatever happened in the next few minutes would change everything. His life, his daughters' futures, Sophia's company, the Life Ream project itself, so much hanging in the balance, all because he had happened to be driving across a bridge during a storm. No regrets? Sophia asked softly as if reading his thoughts. Michael shook his head. Not one. The elevator doors opened onto the hushed luxury of Horizon's executive floor. Sophia stepped out first, every inch the CEO despite her casual clothes and the bruise on her cheek. Michael followed, keeping pace with her confident stride. Whitfield's assistant looked up in shock as they approached. Ms. Reynolds, we've been so worried. Thank you, Claire, Sophia said smoothly. Is Marcus in? Yes, but he asked not to be disturbed. There's a police detective with him now discussing your situation. Perfect timing. Sophia's smile was razor sharp. This won't take long. Without knocking, she pushed open Whitfield's office door. Inside, Whitfield sat behind his massive desk, a stern-faced man in a suit, presumably the detective, seated across from him. Both looked up in shock as Sophia and Michael entered. Sophia! Whitfield recovered first, rising from his chair with a convincing display of relief. Thank God you're safe. We've been worried sick. The police have been searching everywhere. Have they? Sophia's voice was cool. How thoughtful of you to organize the search, Marcus, especially given that you knew exactly where I was. Whitfield's expression flickered, but only for an instant before his mask of concern slipped back into place. I don't understand. Where have you been and why didn't you contact us? Detective, Sophia addressed the other man directly. I apologize for the confusion, but I was never missing or kidnapped. I've been working from a secure location due to concerns about industrial espionage targeting our Life Ream project. The detective's eyebrows rose. Mr. Whitfield reported that you had been taken against your will, possibly by corporate rivals. Did he? Sophia's smile was razor sharp. How interesting, considering that the only threat to the Life Ream has come from within Horizon itself. Whitfield laughed, but there was an edge to it now. Sophia, you're clearly exhausted and confused. Perhaps we should continue this conversation after you've had some rest. The detective was just leaving. Actually, the detective interrupted, studying Sophia with new interest. I think I'd like to hear what Ms. Reynolds has to say. Thank you, Detective. Ramirez, Organized Crime Division. Interesting, Michael thought. Not the division that would typically handle a missing persons or kidnapping case. Detective Ramirez, Sophia continued, I believe Marcus Whitfield has been engaged in corporate espionage against Horizon Technologies. Specifically, he's been attempting to steal the LifeReam technology to sell to Nexus Health, a rival company. Whitfield's laugh was dismissive. That's absurd, Detective. I apologize for wasting your time. Clearly, Sophia is under extreme stress. He attempted to force me to access the secure vault containing the LifeReam data, Sophia continued calmly. When I refused, he had his men threaten Michael Walsh's young daughters as leverage. The detective's expression hardened. That's a serious accusation, Ms. Reynolds. One I can prove, she replied, touching her pendant. This contains a recording of Marcus admitting to these crimes as well as implying an involvement in my father's death 5 years ago. The blood drained from Whitfield's face. You're bluffing. Am I? Sophia raised an eyebrow. Shall we play it for Detective Ramirez, or would you prefer to explain yourself first? Whitfield's demeanor changed in an instant. The mask of concerned colleague fell away, replaced by cold calculation. Detective, I'm afraid Sophia is attempting to deflect attention from her own actions. She and Walsh here have been conspiring to sell the LifeReam technology to foreign interests. I have evidence. In your personal safe? Michael interrupted. The one where you're keeping Priya's stolen access credentials? Or perhaps you mean the offshore accounts you've established to receive payment from Nexus Health. Whitfield's eyes narrowed. You know nothing. We know everything, Marcus, Sophia said quietly. Your meetings with Nexus, your attempts to access the vault using my credentials, the men you sent to threaten Michael's daughters, it's over. For a long moment, the office was silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. Detective Ramirez looked between them, clearly trying to determine which version of events to believe. Then Whitfield smiled, slow and confident. You have nothing. No concrete evidence. Just accusations in a supposedly convenient recording that any competent lawyer will dismiss as doctored. He turned to the detective. I apologize for this circus, Detective. If you'd like to continue our conversation elsewhere. Actually, Ramirez said, pulling out his badge, I think we should continue it right here. He stood, his posture changing subtly. Marcus Whitfield, I'm placing you under arrest for conspiracy to commit corporate espionage, attempted kidnapping, and assault. Whitfield's confidence wavered. What? This is absurd. You can't possibly have evidence. We've been investigating Nexus Health for months, Ramirez explained. Their connections to organized crime. Their history of stealing intellectual property. Your name kept coming up in our surveillance. When you reported Ms. Reynolds missing, it gave us the perfect opportunity to get closer to you. Understanding dawned on Whitfield's face. You were never here about a kidnapping. No, Ramirez confirmed, though the threats against Mr. Walsh's daughters are certainly of interest, as is the assault on Priya Sharma, who regained consciousness an hour ago and has provided a very detailed statement. Whitfield's expression hardened. I want my lawyer. Of course, Ramirez agreed, producing handcuffs. You can call him from the station. As the detective began reading Whitfield his rights, the CFO's gaze locked on Sophia and Michael. This isn't over, he said quietly. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Nexus won't simply walk away from a billion-dollar technology. Neither will we, Michael replied steadily. Whitfield's smile was chilling. We'll see about that. As Ramirez led Whitfield away, Michael felt a momentary surge of triumph, but it was short-lived. Whitfield's final words lingered ominously. This wasn't over. Not yet. Sophia seemed to read his thoughts. He's right, she said once they were alone in the office. Nexus won't give up easily, and Whitfield still has powerful allies within Horizon on the board. So what's our next move? Her expression was determined. We secure the life ream data permanently, make it impossible for anyone to exploit it for profit alone. How? By releasing the core technology into the public domain, she said simply. Not the entire design. We'll keep enough proprietary elements to maintain Horizon's competitive advantage. But the fundamental breakthrough, the filtration system you perfected, that becomes open source. Michael considered this. The board will fight you on it. Some will, she acknowledged, but not all. And with Whitfield's arrest, the balance of power will shift. She touched her pendant. Besides, I wasn't bluffing about the recording. We have leverage. Before Michael could respond, his earpiece crackled to life. Thomas's voice was urgent. We have a problem. Whitfield had a contingency plan. Armed men are entering the building through the parking garage, at least 6 of them. Michael's blood ran cold. The girls, secure for now, Thomas assured him. But we need to move. Head to the roof. Helicopters on standby. Copy that, Michael replied, then explained the situation to Sophia. Her face paled, but her voice remained steady. The life ream data, if these are Nexus operatives, they'll go for the vault. We need to move the data now, Michael finished. The backdoor access. Victor should have completed the transfer to our secure server by now. Confirm, Michael instructed, already moving toward the door. I'll get the girls. Meet me on the roof. No, Sophia caught his arm. We stay together. Thomas will bring the girls to us. Her eyes held his, determination clear. I'm not losing you now. Michael wanted to argue, wanted to rush to his daughter's side immediately, but strategically she was right. They needed to stay together, needed to secure the life ream data before Nexus could steal it. Okay, he agreed reluctantly, but we move fast. They headed for Sophia's office where a secure terminal could access the company's most protected systems. Along the way, they passed staff members who looked up in surprise at seeing their CEO returned apparently unharmed. Sophia acknowledged them with brief nods, but didn't stop to explain. In her office, she immediately went to her computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. Victor completed the transfer, she confirmed after a moment. The life ream data is secure on our offline server. And the vault? Still sealed, she reported, but if Nexus has inside help, they might be able to breach it. As if on cue, an alarm began to sound. Not the fire alarm they'd triggered at the abandoned facility, but something more urgent, more insistent. Security breach, Sophia explained, already closing the computer and heading for the door. Someone's attempting to access the research levels without authorization. They hurried toward the executive elevator, which would take them directly to the roof. Around them, Horizon employees were responding to the alarm with practiced efficiency, moving toward designated evacuation points. Thomas, Michael spoke into his earpiece. Status update. On our way to the roof, came the tense reply. ETA 3 minutes. Nexus operatives are on the research level. They're attempting to breach the vault. Using what? Sophia asked, pressing the elevator call button. They'd need both my biometrics and a department head's. They brought equipment, Thomas reported grimly. Some kind of device to bypass the security protocols. Our people are engaging, but the transmission cut off abruptly. Michael and Sophia exchanged alarmed looks. Thomas? Michael tried again. Thomas, come in. Nothing but static. The elevator arrived with a soft chime. They stepped inside, Michael hitting the button for the roof. They're jamming communications, Sophia said, her voice tight with worry. Standard tactic for this kind of operation. Michael thought of his daughters somewhere in the building. Communications cut off. Fear threatened to overwhelm him, but he pushed it down. Now wasn't the time for panic. Now was the time for clear thinking, for decisive action. If they're jamming communications, they're serious about getting the life ream, he reasoned, which means they'll have the exits covered. The roof is still our best option, Sophia insisted. Horizon maintains a private helicopter service. The pilot is ex-military, someone Thomas trusts. The elevator hummed smoothly upward, floor numbers ticking by with agonizing slowness. Michael found himself holding his breath, expecting the car to halt at any moment, trapped between floors by Nexus operatives. But the elevator continued its ascent, uninterrupted. Finally reaching the top floor, the doors slid open to reveal a short corridor leading to a security door, beyond which lay the rooftop helipad. Sophia pressed her thumb to the biometric scanner beside the door. It beeped affirmatively, the heavy door sliding open to reveal the windswept rooftop. The helicopter sat ready, its rotors already beginning to turn, but there was no sign of Thomas or the girls. They should be here by now, Michael said, scanning the empty rooftop with growing dread. Sophia touched her earpiece. Thomas, come in. We're on the roof. To their surprise, the static cleared, and Thomas's voice came through, tense but clear. Change of plans. Meet us at the emergency stairwell on the east side, level 28. Nexus operatives have cut off access to the roof elevator. Relief flooded Michael's system. Copy that. On our way. They turned back toward the elevator, but before they could reach it, the doors slid shut. The control panel beside it went dark. They've overridden the system, Sophia realized. We're cut off. Michael assessed their situation rapidly. Trapped on the roof, communications compromised, unknown number of hostiles in the building, and somewhere his daughters were in danger. The maintenance ladder, he decided, pointing to a service door on the far side of the roof. It connects to the window washing platform. We can use it to reach the executive floors, then take the emergency stairs down to level 28. Sophia nodded, already moving toward the door. Thomas is smart. Level 28 has multiple exit points, including a sky bridge to the adjacent building. They hurried across the roof, the wind whipping Sophia's hair around her face. Behind them, the helicopter pilot was gesturing urgently, trying to wave them back. He's trying to tell us something, Michael said, hesitating. Then he saw it, a red dot dancing across Sophia's back, a laser sight. Down, he shouted, tackling her to the ground just as a shot rang out. The bullet struck the concrete where she had been standing a split second earlier. Sniper, Sophia gasped, her body tense beneath his. Adjacent building. Michael scanned their surroundings, assessing options. The helicopter offered cover, but the pilot was already closing the door, preparing for emergency takeoff. The maintenance door was 20 feet away across open ground, an easy shot for a skilled sniper. We need a distraction, he muttered. The fire suppression system, Sophia suggested. This roof has foam dispensers for helicopter fires. The control panel is by the elevator. Too exposed, Michael countered. But maybe, his engineering mind raced through possibilities. The air conditioning units. Another shot rang out, striking uncomfortably close to their position. They needed to move now. The helicopter, Sophia decided suddenly. It's creating enough rotor wash to affect the sniper's aim. If we time it right, Michael understood immediately. As the helicopter began to lift off, the downdraft would intensify, creating both a visual and tactical obstacle for the sniper. On my mark, he said, gauging the helicopter's ascent. 3, 2, 1, now! They sprinted for the maintenance door. The helicopter lifted fully off the pad, its powerful rotors creating a miniature windstorm that whipped across the roof. Behind them, 2 more shots rang out, going wide as the sniper struggled to compensate for the turbulent air. They reached the door, Sophia yanking it open as Michael provided cover. Inside was a small equipment room with access to the building's exterior maintenance systems. A ladder led down to the window washing platform, a precarious-looking metal scaffold designed to travel up and down the building's glass exterior. I'll go first, Michael insisted, already moving toward the ladder. Stay close. The platform was smaller than he'd expected, barely large enough for 2 people. It swayed slightly as he stepped onto it, the wind stronger here without the building's bulk to block it. Sophia followed, her movements careful but determined. The controls are automated, she explained, examining the platform's small console, preset to specific floors. Can you override it? Get us to level 28? She frowned in concentration. I think so. These systems were installed before the latest security upgrades. They operate on a separate network. As Sophia worked on the controls, Michael scanned the adjacent buildings, looking for the sniper. There, a glint of metal from a window about 12 floors up in the building to the east. The shooter had repositioned, trying to get a clear angle on the maintenance platform. Sophia, we need to move now. Got it, she announced, and the platform jerked into motion, beginning its descent down the side of the building. They pressed themselves against the wall, minimizing their exposure as they passed floor after floor of gleaming windows. Through the glass, Michael could see Horizon employees reacting to the security alarm, some evacuating calmly, others gathered around the screens displaying security feeds. No sign of Thomas or his daughters. Almost there, Sophia murmured as they approached the 28th floor. There's an access hatch on this level for emergency maintenance. The platform slowed, then stopped precisely at level 28. Sophia reached for the access panel, entering a code that unlocked the exterior window. It swung inward, allowing them to climb through into an empty conference room. Thomas, Michael tried the earpiece again. We're on level 28, East Conference Room. What's your position? This time, Thomas responded immediately. Central stairwell, proceeding to your location. 2 Nexus operatives down, but more incoming. The girls are safe. Relief washed through Michael, quickly followed by renewed determination. They were close now, so close to ending this, to ensuring the Life Ream's future, to protecting his daughters. This way, Sophia directed, leading him through the deserted floor toward the central area. The security alarm continued to wail, but it seemed more distant here, muffled by the building's sophisticated soundproofing. They turned a corner and froze. Standing in the corridor ahead was a man in tactical gear, a weapon raised and pointed directly at them. Don't move, he ordered, his voice coldly professional. Hands where I can see them. Michael and Sophia complied slowly. Michael's mind raced, calculating distances, angles, possibilities. The man was 10 feet away, too far to rush him before he could fire. Nexus sent you, Sophia asked, her voice steady despite the gun aimed at her chest. The man didn't respond, just touched his earpiece with his free hand. I have them, level 28, East Corridor. He paused, listening. Understood. To Michael's surprise, the man lowered his weapon slightly. You're to come with me, both of you. Someone wants to speak with you. My daughters, Michael said immediately. Where are they? Not my concern, the man replied. Move. He gestured with his weapon toward a door at the end of the corridor. Another conference room, larger than the one they'd entered through. Michael and Sophia exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. They had no choice but to comply. For now. The conference room was dimly lit, its long table empty, except for a single laptop open at the far end. The screen showed a video feed of a man Michael didn't recognize. Silver-haired, expensively dressed, with the confident posture of someone accustomed to power. Ms. Reynolds, the man said as they entered, his voice coming through the laptop speakers. Mr. Walsh, I apologize for the dramatic circumstances of our introduction. I'm Richard Vance, CEO of Nexus Health. I know who you are, Sophia replied coldly. The question is, what do you want? Vance smiled, the expression not reaching his eyes. The same thing Whitfield promised us. The Life Ream technology, specifically Mr. Walsh's elegant filtration solution. It's not for sale, Michael stated flatly. Everything has a price, Mr. Walsh, Vance countered smoothly, including the safety of your charming daughters. Ice formed in Michael's veins. If you've touched them, they're unharmed, Vance assured him. For now, their continued well-being depends entirely on your cooperation. On cue, the laptop screen split, showing a second video feed. Lucy and Emma sat in what appeared to be another conference room, Thomas unconscious on the floor beside them. A man in tactical gear stood guard by the door. As you can see, they're quite safe, Vance continued, though their security detail proved uncooperative. Rage and fear battled in Michael's chest, but he forced himself to remain calm. Losing control wouldn't help his daughters. What do you want? Access to the Life Ream data, Vance replied simply. The complete design specifications, including your filtration system. Ms. Reynolds will provide her biometric authorization to the vault, and you, Mr. Walsh, will verify the data's integrity. And then what? Sophia demanded. You release the girls, and we all go our separate ways. I don't think so, Sophia said. Vance sighed as if disappointed by her lack of faith. Business is business, Ms. Reynolds. Once we have what we want, we have no reason to harm any of you. Quite the contrary. We prefer there be no investigation that might delay our product launch. Your product launch? Michael repeated, disgust evident in his voice. You mean selling a life-saving technology at prices no one in developing nations could possibly afford? The market determines value, Mr. Walsh. Surely an engineer understands that basic principle. Michael looked at his daughters on the screen. Lucy's face set in a determined scowl, while Emma appeared frightened, but was trying to be brave. His heart swelled with pride even as fear threatened to overwhelm him. What was the right choice here? Surrender the life-ream data and betray Sophia's trust, the future of millions who needed affordable dialysis? Or refuse and risk his daughter's lives? The answer came to him suddenly, with perfect clarity. There was a third option, one that required courage, trust, and the same split-second decision-making that had sent him diving into that river on a stormy night. "All right," he said finally, "we'll do it, but I need to see my daughters first, in person, to know they're really safe." A reasonable request, Vance considered this. "Jordan," he addressed the guard, "escort Mr. Walsh to his daughters. Ms. Reynolds will remain here as insurance." "No," Michael said firmly, "we stay together. Those are my terms." "You're hardly in a position to make demands, Mr. Walsh." "Maybe not," Michael acknowledged, "but I am in a position to waste your time. Every minute we argue is another minute for Horizon's security to track us down, another minute for the police to respond to the alarms. If you want the life ream data, you'll let us see the girls together now." Vance's expression hardened, but after a moment he nodded. "Very well. Jordan, take them both. But remember, any attempt at heroics will have immediate consequences for the children." The guard, Jordan, gestured toward the door with his weapon. "Move." As they were led through the corridor toward the central area of the floor, Michael glanced at Sophia. Their eyes met, understanding passing between them. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The conference room where Lucy and Emma were being held was only a short distance away. As they approached, Michael could hear Emma's voice, higher than usual with stress, but still determinedly cheerful, chattering about her science project to the stone-faced guard. "And then the volcano erupts with this red foam that looks just like lava, but it's really just baking soda and vinegar with food coloring. Dad helped me build the volcano part. He's really good at building things. He's an engineer, you know. He can probably fix that radio you keep adjusting. It sounds like the frequency is—" "Emma!" Lucy hissed, obviously trying to get her sister to stop talking. The guard opened the door, revealing the girls seated at a conference table. Thomas lay on the floor nearby, a nasty bruise forming on his temple, but his chest rising and falling steadily. Emma jumped up when she saw Michael, only to be restrained by the guard's hand on her shoulder. "Dad!" she cried, her brave facade cracking at the sight of him. "It's okay, sweetheart," Michael assured her, his voice steadier than he felt. "Everything's going to be fine." Lucy's eyes were sharp, assessing. "They want Ms. Reynolds' invention, don't they?" "Smart kid," Jordan commented. "Now sit down, all of you. Mr. Vance wants to speak with you." The laptop on the conference table flickered to life, Vance's face appearing on the screen. "Ah, the family reunion. Touching. Now, Ms. Reynolds, if you'll provide your biometric authentication to access the vault data." Sophia stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "And if I refuse?" Vance sighed. "Please, let's not play these games. You know what's at stake." Michael watched as Sophia slowly approached the laptop. This was the moment their entire plan hinged on, the gamble he'd made when he'd agreed to Vance's demands. "The authentication requires both retinal and fingerprint scans," Sophia explained, leaning toward the laptop's camera, in a voice command. "Proceed," Vance instructed. Sophia placed her thumb on the laptop's fingerprint router, staring directly into the camera as she spoke clearly. "Reynolds, Sophia. Authorization code, Phoenix Rising." The screen flickered, then displayed a progress bar. "Authentication in progress," an automated voice announced. Michael tensed, ready to move. Beside him, he could sense Lucy doing the same. The girl's body coiled like a spring. Even Emma seemed to understand that something was about to happen. Her chattering suddenly ceased. "Authentication complete," the computer announced. "Initiating Protocol Phoenix." Vance frowned. "Protocol Phoenix? What is—" He was cut off as the building's lighting suddenly shifted to red, and a new alarm began to sound. Different from the security breach alert, more urgent. "What have you done?" Jordan demanded, his weapon swinging toward Sophia. She smiled, cold and dangerous. I've initiated Horizon's data purge protocol. In 30 seconds, every server containing LifeReam data will be wiped clean, permanently. Stop it, Vance shouted from the screen. Reverse it now. I can't, Sophia replied calmly. Phoenix is irreversible. It was designed as a last resort against exactly this type of corporate theft. Jordan lunged toward her, but Michael was ready. He intercepted the guard, grappling for the weapon. They crashed into the conference table, sending the laptop flying. Lucy, Emma, down, Michael shouted as he fought to control the guard's gun. The girls didn't need to be told twice. They dropped to the floor, Lucy pulling Emma under the table with her. The guard was strong, his training evident in the precision of his counterattacks. But Michael had 16 years of factory work behind him, muscles hardened by manual labor, and something far more powerful than training driving him, the need to protect his family. With a surge of desperate strength, Michael slammed the guard's gun hand against the edge of the table. The weapon clattered to the floor, sliding away under a chair. Across the room, Sophia had grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and was now bringing it down hard on the second guard who had rushed in at the sound of fighting. The metal canister connected with his head with a sickening thud, and he crumpled to the floor. Jordan, now disarmed, pulled a knife from his belt. You've made a serious mistake, he growled, circling Michael warily. No, Michael countered, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his system. You did. The moment you threatened my daughters. The guard lunged, knife slashing toward Michael's abdomen. Michael twisted away, the blade catching only his shirt. He countered with a punch that connected solidly with the guard's jaw, sending him staggering back. Dad! Lucy called, sliding the fallen gun across the floor toward him. Michael kicked it further away. No guns, he said firmly. Get Thomas. Wake him up if you can. Jordan used the momentary distraction to attack again, this time managing to slice Michael's arm. Pain flared, hot and sharp, but Michael pushed it aside. He caught the guard's wrist on the next strike, twisting until he heard something snap. The knife fell from suddenly nerveless fingers. With a roar of pain and rage, Jordan charged, tackling Michael to the ground. They rolled across the floor, trading blows. Michael's world narrowed to this fight, to the necessity of subduing this threat to his family. A familiar voice cut through his focus. Thomas, groggy but conscious. Walsh, move! Michael instinctively rolled away from Jordan, just as Thomas fired a taser. The electrode struck the guard squarely in the chest, his body convulsing before collapsing to the floor. Breathing hard, Michael climbed to his feet. Across the room, Sophia had subdued the second guard and was now comforting Emma, who looked shaken but unharmed. Lucy stood beside Thomas, who was leaning against the wall, still wobbly but alert. The LifeReam data, Michael asked Sophia. Safe? Phoenix isn't really a purge protocol, she assured him. It's a secure transfer to an off-site location only I can access. The data is now beyond Nexus's reach. Relief washed through Michael, followed immediately by concern as the building's real alarms continued to blare. We need to move. More advances people could be coming. Thomas nodded, checking his weapon. The sky bridge to the adjacent building is our best bet. Horizon Security will have secured the main exits by now, containing the situation. They moved quickly, Thomas taking point despite his obvious concussion, Sophia helping Emma while Michael supported Lucy, who had twisted her ankle in the confusion. The corridor outside was empty, the alarm having cleared most legitimate employees from the floor. The sky bridge was a glass-enclosed walkway connecting Horizon's tower to the neighboring building, a high-end hotel that shared some facilities with the tech company. As they approached, Michael could see that the bridge was clear, its automatic doors locked down due to the security alert. I can override it, Sophia said, moving to the control panel. Emergency protocols. As she worked, Thomas kept watch on the corridor behind them. Movement, he reported tensely. 3 hostiles approaching fast. Almost there, Sophia muttered, fingers flying over the keypad. The doors slid open just as the first shots rang out, bullets shattering the glass wall beside them. Thomas returned fire, providing cover as they rushed onto the bridge. Go, he shouted, taking up a defensive position at the horizon end of the bridge. I'll hold them here. Thomas, Sophia began, but the security chief cut her off. My job is to protect you, Ms. Reynolds. Now go. Michael understood the man's decision, respected it even as he hated leaving him behind. But his priority had to be his daughter's safety. He urged them forward across the exposed expanse of the sky bridge, Sophia just ahead of them. They were halfway across when the bridge shuddered violently. Behind them, some kind of explosion had damaged the horizon end, smoke billowing into the enclosed space. Thomas was nowhere to be seen. Keep moving, Michael urged, pushing the girls forward as the bridge swayed alarmingly. The structural damage was severe. They had moments at most before the whole thing might collapse. They reached the hotel side just as the bridge gave another sickening lurch. The doors here were still locked, the hotel security system responding to the emergency by sealing all access points. Stand back, Sophia instructed, picking up a fire extinguisher mounted on the wall. With all her strength, she slammed it against the glass doors. Once, twice, 3 times, and finally the safety glass shattered, creating an opening large enough to climb through. Emma first, Michael decided, lifting his younger daughter and helping her through the broken door. Lucy followed, wincing as she put weight on her injured ankle. As Sophia prepared to climb through, the bridge gave one final, catastrophic shudder. The horizon end had completely detached, the entire structure now hanging precariously from its connection to the hotel building. Go, Michael shouted, practically shoving Sophia through the opening. He followed immediately after, both of them tumbling to the hotel corridor floor, just as the bridge tore away completely, crashing down to the street 30 stories below. For a moment, they lay there breathless, as hotel guests and staff stared in shock at the disaster unfolding before them. Then Michael was on his feet, gathering his daughters close, checking them for injuries. Is it over? Emma asked in a small voice. Michael looked at Sophia, who had risen shakily to her feet. Their eyes met over the girls' heads, a world of understanding passing between them. Yes, he told his daughter with more certainty than he felt. It's over. But even as hotel security swarmed around them, as distant sirens announced the arrival of police and emergency services, Michael knew that the ripples from this day would continue long after the immediate danger had passed. The life-ream technology was safe, but at what cost? Thomas's sacrifice, the damage to Horizon, the trauma to his daughters? And what of the future? Nexus wouldn't simply disappear. Whitfield, though arrested, still had powerful allies. The path ahead was uncertain at best. Yet as he held his daughters close, as Sophia moved to join their embrace, her hand finding his in silent support, Michael felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Not just for survival, but for something more. A future built on trust, on shared purpose, on the connection that had formed between two people from different worlds when one had dived into a river to save the other. Whatever came next, they would face it together, engineer and CEO, rescuer and rescued, two people who had found in each other the courage to build something new from the wreckage of what might have been. And that, Michael thought, as emergency workers led them towards safety, was worth diving into any river.